And you can always talk to these lead-ins too. You don't have to sit there and quiet. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Stone Genius Podcast. My name's Ro. I'm a stoner. I'm a genius. Here I am. Okay, first of all, I claim to be a genius. I have a card that technically I guess I could have made myself somehow if I was that smart, claiming to be a genius as well. That being said, first of all, welcome back to the program, Tim Lightell. Welcome, Timmy.
Thank you.
I feel like we just did this.
I got a strange sense of deja vu.
I know. So to fill everyone in, we did an episode. We recorded about a week ago, within the last 10 days. And we were doing a video episode, which I just need to embrace it. I need to lean into it. I always talk about leaning into stuff. Like if you don't like something, but you have to just lean into it. I mean, you might as well. So I really need to do that with video. So what happened last week, and this is for the audience, not for Tim, because he was.
I was there.
You were there.
Well, we both lived it. We both lived it. We did it. We did a whole podcast, and it was if
3 hours and 40 minutes. It was one of the longer podcasts.
Don't want to toot my own horn, but I thought it was a great podcast.
It was. And
a lot of fun, a lot of good stuff.
And I had written, a lot of it was on religion and things of that nature. And so I had written most of the material I wanted to talk about back in August. And I talked about how I didn't know if the universe wanted me to put this out there. But then we were recording it. Hold on. Thinking that we were recording it. Mm-hmm. So I was doing a video, but my big drawback was I switched from going from using my laptop to using my phone. So I think that may have been a disconnect there somehow. And then for whatever reason, it did not pick up your audio. So it sounded like I was talking, and then then there'd be long pauses of silence. I mean, I sounded great on the audio.
We didn't get anything. We didn't get anything. We just got your one way, and then did we get video or did we get no video?
Not even video, the weird thing is, it looks like 8 seconds of video recorded, but it was, I don't know what it was. It was from that day, but I don't know what. So it was, I don't know. And once again, it could have been the universe. The universe, I mean, if there's going to be an animal such as a platypus, then the universe is going to fuck with you. God, I loved the platypus as a kid. I don't know why. That was such as a little kid, like in elementary school in the early to mid 70s, I don't know why the platypus. So here's what I thought in the mid 70s. I thought that I would own a platypus. I would probably fall into quicksand and die. And if that didn't happen, then I would die via spontaneous combustion, because those seem to be like all the prevalent things in my life at that time.
Yeah. Quicksand was definitely a big thing when I was a kid too. And I've never gotten to see it or experience it, thankfully. But yeah, that was a big fear.
It was. So the weird thing though is if I went somewhere and it said there's quicksand, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna try this. I mean, not like me personally. Like I may push someone else, or not even that. Let's just say I throw a rock in there and just see what happens.
Right. You just want to see it. You just want to see, or a piece of trash or something. You want to kind of see how it works. I would love to see how quicksand works, like in real life.
I would like to know how many Americans are killed by quicksand every year. Because if you would have asked me as a child, I would have definitely said that was a top 10 cause of death. Because even Gilligan's Island was quicksand.
Yeah. I had a book that had a diagram of how quicksand works, but I still, wanted to see it for real. So now that we've just totally gone off the rails, so is quicksand different consistencies? Like, could I step on quicksand and sink at a different rate? I can't remember. I feel like in the book.
Uh-oh, did I lose Tim? Timmy! We'll be right back. Okay.
All right.
Tim is back. So I'm telling you, the universe does not want us to.
This feels like a cursed episode. This is the curse.
Yeah. So here's what I guess we need to talk about what the episode is about. So we were talking about religion, and I will always say I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. That's how I was raised. That's what I believe. That's my system. Like if I close my eyes and I'm talking to someone, that's who it is. That God, that type. That being said, I'm very open to the concept that may not be 100% accurate.
Right.
And
right.
I just know,
I
I really see people that have a tremendous amount of faith, and sometimes I wish that. I mean, just like the faith that I have in Bobby, my wife, the faith that I know that my love for her supersedes anything else. I wish sometimes I had that faith, like like I just was that certain, because I'm not. Like,
right.
You know, I always say, the afterlife is either going to be amazing or nothing. I don't think there's going to be an in between.
Right.
But that's why I've feared saying, because I don't ever want to say something and go, like, have someone question their faith. That's not why I have it to say. I just sometimes feel like people bypass.
Yeah. I mean, I get annoyed by that kind of snarky, attitude of atheism, like what you're saying, trying to get people to kind of question their faith.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to say, well, what I am, I'd say I'm some sort of atheist in the sense that, like, I don't believe in God, but at the same time, there is something else like that feels pretty real to me too. So right. I don't know how I can't quite say that I'm atheistic, because I don't believe in a human God, like a God as, God created man in his image. I'm not
right.
quite sure about that at all. I feel that seems kind of
this seems like a fairly pedestrian image for a God to take. Like if we're his, exactly. It's like it's like me. If I was created in his image, which I always say I'm his height at 6'5", but I would have a full head of hair. I know that I talk about that on a large percentage of my shows, but that's when I'm like, if there truly was a God, I would have full, long, flowing hair. That someone would have figured this shit out already, because that is frustrating to me.
Would you go in the Fabio direction, like kind of fluffy, or would you go?
I would go. So I have actually said at this point that I would take any hairstyle. Like if God's like, well, I'm going to give you a full head of hair, but it's going to be a mullet, I'd be like, well, I guess mullets are. I guess I'm glad mullets are coming back. I mean, I don't know what hairstyle.
You're just full of just a lot of testosterone, right? You got a good healthy T level then.
I would just love it. So I had Jeeps for about 20 plus years, and if I had a full, I don't remember how glorious that was to be driving with the top off and your hair blowing in the wind. I don't remember that. I don't remember getting my hair cut by someone and them massaging my scalp as they shampoo my head. I mean, I haven't even had to, I take a wash rag to my head most days. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I've been giving myself my own hair. I've been shaving my head bald since the pandemic. So like the last 3 years.
So do you have a full head of hair?
I kinda, like, I think when it grows out, I got a receding hairline, so there's that happening now.
So that's the tricky point, though. When I shaved my head in '93, I was living in on St. Petersburg Beach, and I used to play basketball at Pasagrove, which is South St. Pete Beach, and we'd play a lot of times at night. You could put a quarter in it to get you 15 minutes of light. You'd turn this little dial, it'd light up the court at night. So we'd play, but it was still very humid. And so I shaved my head because it was like wearing a wet mop. It was all one length, about shoulder length. And I guess my hair was kind of receding. I never thought so, but I do remember this. Someone, I went to a bar, and someone I went to high school with was working there. And they said, oh, you're losing your hair. I go, what are you talking about? They go, well, your hairline so high? I go, that's where my hairline's always been. And they go, no one's hairline starts there. And they were being serious. And but it was always thick. It may have been like receding up, but it was always thick. And then when I shaved my head, so then I meet Bobby 3 years later. Year after that, we're talking about getting married or gonna get married. She wants me to grow my hair out. And much to my chagrin, there was no hair for me. I mean, I guess, see, that's where I think Mother Nature, the universe, God, whoever was like, well, if you don't want it and you're going to shave your head, I'm just not going to give it to you any longer. So I do feel like I was punished for shaving my head.
Right. I don't know. I don't know if it's a punishment. I think it's a good look. I'm not sure. We're not doing video, but the bald head is working for you. Well, it's working for me. I like it.
I've talked about it on this. When I shaved my head in 93, first of all, no white guys were shaving their head. I always joke that it was me, Michael Jordan, and Charles Barkley were the only three shaving our heads at that point.
Started it.
And so, but I used to, because of that, it really stood out. So now all of a sudden you have someone who's 6'5" and now has their head that's shaved. If you think about like Vince Vaughn, he was in a movie like Cell Block 99 or something like that. I don't know if you've ever seen that or heard of it. But
I have seen that.
His head's shaved in it. He's a badass in the movie, and it's just very different from what,
It is a very different for him,
Yeah, and so I think, especially in 93, when no one was doing that, all of a sudden, I went from kind of like this pretty boy, maybe like a Vince Vaughn with hair. I did, because it was long, and it was kind of wavy. I spent a lot of time out in the sunlight, and so I had natural highlights. I may have had some not so natural highlights. I am vain. I mean, but
people thought you maybe had a little edge then after you shaved, kind of
oh yeah, was up. Oh yeah. I had a couple girls tell me, they said, usually we find a wolf in sheep's clothing, but you're a sheep in wolf's clothing. Because like I had a leather biker jacket and stuff, and so then my head's shaved, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and then I'm opening doors for them, or saying thank you, or what, So
right, huh? All right.
So
well, do you think God is pictured in my brain from childhood as a big long flowing hair and a big fluffy beard, but I would assume that's probably not what he looks like.
No, that's exactly what he looks like. Every god in every culture, society has long flowing hair. Think of the Greek gods, the Roman gods. They all have long flowing hair. You know who doesn't have long flowing hair? The brainy people. Socrates, Plato, they're all bald. They have the cul-de-sac haircut like I do. So that's probably why I'm in that group. Although I really desire, if I had the chance to leave the intelligent group and go to the God group, and I'm getting hair with that, I would definitely. I love being smart, I really do. Right. But I would take long flowing hair at this point. At 56 years old, long flowing hair would be great.
I guess the Buddha has kind of a bald head, right?
I thought his was pulled back and put like into a ponytail on the backside of his head.
Yeah. I think he might be right. I think he might be long flowing hair too. But a lot of monks shave the head, so that the followers of God. So we're followers. We can have closely cropped hair and not be gods ourselves, I guess. It is interesting though. I have never thought about that. The gods all do have that. They all have.
Yeah, that's how much I've thought about this shit.
Fluffy heads there.
Yeah, I can't think of a single god. I mean, even in the Marvel movies, if you think about it, Aquaman, and even like, and I don't remember which movie it was because I'm not really that type. The kids were in like those movies, so we'd go. There was one where Kurt Russell, I think it was Guardians of the Galaxy, actually. One of those where Kurt Russell he has long fucking beautiful hair. That guy pisses me off. I mean, not like in a mean sort of way, but like if Kurt and I were hanging out, I probably wouldn't go more than 10 minutes without saying something snarky about his hair. Or trying to shave his head and wear his hair. I'm not against either one of those. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So it's funny. We're talking about hair. So I did some contract labor stuff about 15 years ago for American Express. And we're going to small businesses and things. And so they flew us out to New York City. There were a whole group of us doing things, different regions. So I had like the Southwest United States. But they flew us out there and they're doing, like icebreakers. And so like the question was, if you could only have one thing on a deserted island, what could it be? And you can't say your family. So it had to be, you go, I want my family with me, which I would never say in 100 years. If it's a deserted island, I want it to be deserted. But so they're going around, and I was near the end, and there's probably 40 of us in here. And there is one guy that was there, and he had the most beautiful hair. I mean, it was thick and well maintained. It was beautiful hair. So when they get around to it, people are like, oh, I'd take my golf clubs and I'd work on my sand game. And, stupid. And, whatever. I mean, I can't call other people's stuff that they said stupid, because when they got to me, I mentioned another guy that had already gone. I go, well, I would want his hair. And there was literally and they were like, what do you mean? I go, as someone, and it was funny because the trainer was bald, the guy that was leading the training. I go, as someone who does not have hair, I think I called myself follically challenged. I go, if I'm on a deserted island and I'm going to spend a lot of time in the water, there would be nothing more gratifying than coming out of the water and shaking my head like in slow motion and just having that hair whip around in the water. And so everyone got a big laugh out of that one. But that's it always is hair. Like it does. Megan Thee Stallion could walk in the door, and I'm a huge Megan Thee Stallion fan. So my wife and I could be somewhere, and Megan Thee Stallion could walk in dressed in as little as she would like. And if she was with a guy that had long, beautiful hair, I would focus on that guy's hair. And it's not sexual or anything else. Actually, it is, because I do know if I had long hair, Bobby would never let me out of the house. I mean, we would have like a red room, and she would have me like chained up in there all the time. And I got to tell you, I am not against that at all.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about religion. So here's what's happened since the religion. I talked about I didn't want to say anything that would
challenge anyone's faith.
Right. I wouldn't want to give them any doubt. So this past...
I agree. I'm with you simpatico on that, because you wouldn't, anyway.
So, because sometimes that's what you need. I mean, no matter what that faith is, I mean, you may need it to get through a time. So I don't want to challenge anyone's faith on there, but I do want to call out when someone says something. Like when they say, well, God is all-knowing and we have free will. Well, you can't have both of those things. It's one or the other. Because if you're all-knowing, you know what's going to happen tomorrow, but if you know what's going to happen tomorrow, you have no free will to change that. So you at least with me, you have to have that conversation. You can't just ignore those kind of conflicts. So this past weekend at the church that I go to, which just happens to be the largest mainline Protestant church in the United States, with about 24,000 members. Our sanctuary holds about 3,000. So we were having an ugly sweater contest this past weekend. And this is where, in my cockiness or confidence, but there's a reason I have the confidence. My confidence, the day before, last Saturday, I told our youngest child, Trinity, I go, I'm going to win this contest, and I'm going to win this contest by not following the guidelines, and people will allow me to do that. And I'm going to be the most talked about sweater as well. So the next day at church we go. I sent you the video.
You did?
So my wife. So it was supposed to be an ugly sweater contest. When I say I don't follow the rules, is I kind of make up my own rules, unless it's a hard and fast rule, like you have to do this or whatever. So instead of an ugly sweater, Bobby went out. She found a cardigan sweater for me at a thrift store, went to Scheels and bought a squirrel dog toy that looks like a big squirrel, like a normal size, like a real squirrel. and sewed it to the back of the sweater. And then I wore a Santa hat. So I dressed as Clark Griswold from Christmas Vacation when the squirrel jumps out of the Christmas tree on his back.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't an ugly sweater. It was a Christmas related sweater.
I feel like it's creative destruction.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And so we get to church, and the thing about this sweater is, unless you see me walking away, or unless I turn and show you, which I wasn't doing to people, I wanted it to be a surprise. I could talk to someone, I turned and walked away, I wanted them to be like, what the? So that actually happened. We sat down. I needed to go. I went to the bathroom or something. I got up, and Bobby's like, oh, everyone was talking about you when you got up. Which, once again, I feel like people do that all the time anyway. I know. Sure. I sound like a narcissist. And I'm okay with that, honestly. So, so we're standing there singing hymns, and one of the pastors comes up, and he goes, "Hey, you're going to be one of the winners. At the end of the sermon, you're going to go up on stage." So I was like, "Okay." Right. So the end of the sermon, I go over there. So and the church is, we seat about 3,000. I think the capacity is 3,000 in our sanctuary. We probably had somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500. Maybe half the people were wearing sweaters. So, they picked 4 of us, 4 out of, let's say, 1,000 is what I was. So we go up there, and still, unless people saw me walk by them, they didn't know that I had this gigantic squirrel on my back.
Right.
So we get up there, and so I'm facing the crowd, which is this like a semicircle, like I don't know what type of auditorium you'd call it, or the presence. So then they go, well, we're going to take a picture. And so, everyone's standing forward because of their sweaters. Well, I turn my back, showing the squirrel, and everyone there's a huge laugh that comes out in church. And then afterwards, people are stopping me, which I feel bad for Bobby, which I don't know why she did this to herself. I'm glad she did, but she does not like attention to be drawn towards her. And I am the exact wrong person to be with. She should not have hitched to this wagon if she didn't want to be seen.
Yeah.
So, there's people coming up and asking, like, we get to the car, the people next to us are like doing the motion to roll down your window and roll it down to talk about the sweater and stuff. And so it was just besides Bobby. But then when I get home and we tell Trinity that I won, they were actually mad because I had said previously that I was going to do that. And then I went out and actually did that. That's why I think I'd be a great cult leader. I do think that I can judge responses from people. So I do think I could position and once again, I don't want to be, the whole reason I don't start a cult is I don't want to lead people away from something else. And I know that sounds like a really low bar to prevent me from from starting a cult, but I do think I'd be good at it. I mean, I don't want to take a job that's going to be difficult for me. If I'm going to take a job, I want it to be easy as shit. I mean, like if someone came and they said at this advanced age of me at 56 that I could be in porn and make a good living being in porn, I'd be like, yes, please. I mean, especially I keep trying to talk Bobby into it. All I have to do is hit record. I mean, the phone's sitting right next to the bedstand anyway. Prop it up and hit record, and boom, we are Pornhub stars. Which once again,
there's so much out there though now. I feel, but who knows? You seem like you have a lot of will. Do you think it's all just will for the sweater, or do you think God has any part in that? Is it all you, or is it all?
No. So that's what I was getting to. What I won. I thought that I didn't pay that much attention the week before when they were talking about the sweater thing. I thought I was getting into heaven. Like I thought it was almost like Monopoly. Like I was gonna get a card, so when I got to heaven, they'd be like, "What are you doing here?" I'd be like, "I got this card," and they would be like, "Oh, you're the holiday sweater winner from 2023. Come on in." I mean, so that did not happen. What I did win was a free cookie or bakery item from the cafe. And then I did get a signed copy of our rock star pastor, his latest book, which is called Wrestling with Doubt, Finding Faith. I kid you not.
There you go. Wrestling with Doubt.
And
wrestling
so
is the first sport from the in Genesis, right? Who wrestles the angel? Is that Jacob wrestling the angel? I don't know. But yeah.
I mean, and I just thought it was because literally the first chapter is the good book Wrestling with the Bible, which is kind of like, or I guess, sorry, the first chapter is there a God?
Right.
And
Well, that's
like,
what we're talking about, right? It's
yeah.
like wrestling with doubt and with faith, and how do you deal with that? Have you read the book? Or are you just?
No, I just got it Sunday, and even though I could read it probably rather quickly, I mean it's just shy of 200 pages. I mean it's not War and Peace or anything like that. So I could, but no, I have not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I definitely will, because I am interested. Adam he started our church. So let's see if I can quote our church's mission statement, or is it mission statement, or is it just I don't know. So it's a place where non-religious and nominally religious people will become deeply committed in their relationship with Christ. So I know that's not 100% accurate, but that's why he started this church, for people that were coming to it that probably walked away at some point and then returned to the church, or come walking in. And so that's one thing that always drew us to it as well. It wasn't a fire and brimstone type thing, but there's still it doesn't happen as much anymore. Actually, I guess I can't really say that, because the pandemic has changed attendance habits. But pre-pandemic, it was not uncommon to see people get upset with his sermons and walk out of the church, like to leave, like never to return.
Denomination, is that correct?
What's that?
This is a Presbyterian church.
This is Methodist. We go to a Methodist church. So what you may be thinking, so on our first show, and we talked for 3 hours, so there was a lot there. I grew up in a Presbyterian church where my mom worked, and I still most Sunday mornings attend church with her at her church, and then Bobby and I generally either go to a later morning service or an evening service for our church, but that way. And it is so different, because we're both considered Protestant under the Protestant umbrella, but there is a huge difference between us. And Bobby when I met her, she was Nazarene. And that was even more like no drinking, no dancing, like Footloose. Like I always thought Footloose was a movie. I mean, it is a movie. It was a movie. But like in 84, I was like, are there really places like that in America? Sure. I didn't really, I mean, I didn't have experience that way. So I didn't really think, I didn't give it that much, but I didn't think there really were. But that's kind of how Bobby was. I remember her grandparents wouldn't go to our wedding reception. And I don't remember if it was because of the booze, because of the alcohol, or both. But there was something that they refused to go to attend that, which is weird.
Well, you're just a couple generations away from when you think about it. I mean, what's the there's that Chris Rock joke, or maybe it's, I don't know, like an old lady is really just she grew up with segregation, and a 50-year-old black lady is 50 years ago there's segregation. So time moves, and things aren't as far away as they seem sometimes.
And there's another reason that I am so sure there's something. Once again, I'm going to call it God. So sure that there is something is because of Bobby. I always tell her that. I go, how fucking awesome is that to know? And I'm not saying this like as a joke to her, but I go, how cool is that to know that every time I look at you, I know that there's a God. I know that your existence in my life makes me know that there is something. Now, there may not be an afterlife, there may not be a life, but there is something that you and I got together. There's no other reason. And, I never really thought of this. I've had Raven Willow on the show before. She's an empath and a psychic, and she was talking about that we just knew each other in previous lives. I've never really given that much thought, but that makes as much, and I don't know how much of this we talked about the first time that none of this recorded. So I sometimes apologize if I know the listeners may be hearing this for the first time, but if I'm redundant to you, but sometimes I just wonder with the previous life scenario, that makes as much sense to me at this point as me and Bobby living in a world with 7+ billion people. And we just happen to live in such close proximity to each other and just happen to run into each other at a bar that a lot of things, I had to have a roommate that died. I had to move in with someone else that I barely knew. That person that I moved in with had to care enough about me to keep calling and checking on me and asking me to go out, where I finally was like, my answer was, is there anyone I'd be interested in meeting? And I remember her statement, there's a 6'1" blonde girl I think you would like.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, how do those statements, so to me, there has to be a God directing that, because that just makes so much more sense to me than it just ran. I get it, but that's a lot of fucking coincidences lining up together.
I mean, I love that. I love that. I love the idea of that all our, there's a Proclaimers song, I would walk 500 miles. You know that one? 500 miles and 500 more. And when that came out when I was a kid at high school or something. And I was like, oh yeah, he's walking 500 miles because he likes this girl or something, whatever I thought.
Right.
And then it was only later in my life, only in my 30s, when I was having, a serious relationship with someone, when I realized, oh, wait a second, this isn't just about him walking 500 miles. This is him walking every mile that he's ever walked in his life to get to that point,
right,
to be the man who is walking there.
Right.
It's a subtle distinction, but it's exactly what you're talking about, because all these things have to happen for you to get to that point where you're with Bobby. And that, to me, is it's an incredible miracle, and people make art about it. And, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. And I mean,
God, I don't call it God. I don't know what I call it, but yes, it is. It's magic. There's something. It's magic. Maybe it's physics. Some scientists, recently have the guy I heard on the radio. Can't think of his name, but he wrote a book. There is no free will. It's we are set into motion by the universe, and everything is just happening.
Right.
Maybe that is true. And if that's true, some people might be horrified by that. I think it's kind of beautiful, despite all the shit and terrible things that happen. It's certainly a wild ride. So
it is, and and we discussed that on the Long Lost show. That that even if it is something that just is random, that's pretty amazing too. I mean, and that may actually be more amazing if it is random. Like if we get to the end and right before we die, we get a glimpse, and we whatever reason, the universe is like, everything was just straight. I'm here behind the curtain, but running the universe, but I just kind of I did the Big Bang thing, and then I didn't really do anything else. Everything else was random. I mean, that would probably be even more impressive.
That would be quite a surprise. I mean, who knows? And if it's all just ephemeral and it's lost, like our lost episode, then that is something interesting too. I mean, who knows? Who really knows?
Yeah.
But we have these feelings, right? I mean, we certainly sense that something's up.
It is funny though, because when I've talked about me being so sure that Bobby is my proof of God, I am well aware of who I am and what I am. And so it's almost like as certain as I am about God because of Bobby, I sometimes feel like that's how uncertain she is. Like, would God have really put him in my life to do this? Like, really? Is this, like, I figure that she would be more like, like in Walking Tall, like with The Rock, and she'd be like the girl, and like that's probably what she was expecting from God, and then she got me. So, yeah. So, yeah.
I don't know.
Hold on, I got a sound for that one for Bobby. So you grew up. So we were, and that's the weird thing about kind of redoing this show is sometimes I'll forget about, because we talked about it. So now I know that we've talked about it, but that not everyone knows about it. So we talked a little bit about what I grew up as a. Maybe I didn't. So my grandfather, when I was born in St. Petersburg, lived in Tampa. My grandfather was the pastor of First Christian Church in Hyde Park in Tampa. My grandmother was the organ player. My mom was the youth director. My dad was actually the business administrator. In fact, they had a big, I don't know what you call it in a Christian church, because it's not where the pastor lived, because my grandparents had their own place, but it was weird. Like, we lived there, like above the church offices, our family. So we actually lived at the church down there. What brought us to Kansas City was my dad took a job at a different church here in Kansas City. And then my mom worked at a separate church. So my dad came for a job here for a church. So I've always been around the church. Grandfather was a Christian minister, not Christian faith, but the actual Christian denomination, I guess, whatever. And then, so then my formative years were in a Presbyterian church, and that's all I really knew. And so when I got to a Methodist church, it kind of felt like Presbyterians just seem very judgy to me. And I know that sounds weird saying, because a lot of church-going people are very judgy, but even more so, it seems like they're really tight, tight.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, and that's one thing when you talk about religion here. A lot of people talk about the founding of our nation, that the Pilgrims were trying to find religious freedoms. And here's the thing. It's because they were so fucking conservative. Remember, they were called the Puritans. Yes. So here's the thing. If you are looking for a romantic partner and you hear that person that you're interested in is a Puritan, you're probably not going to get laid for a long time. Okay?
Yeah.
So my feeling is, the story is they left looking for religious freedoms. My feeling is they were so fucking tightly wound that they got kicked out of any country they wanted, because no one wanted to hang out with them. No one goes, hey, Friday, like if Tim, you came to town and I said, hey, I got some Puritan friends, we're going to go out Friday night, you'd probably be like, you know what? I've been traveling, it's been long, I'm just going to stay at the hotel room or something. I can't imagine me offering Puritans up and you being, yes, let's do that. Whatever that is.
Yeah, your description is actually a bit more historically accurate from what I've read. So the Puritans were in Amsterdam, I think, where it was pretty loose and there was a lot of freedom. And then they went to England because they thought there would be less freedom. They weren't looking for freedom. They were looking for,
restrictions.
They wanted restriction. And so they came to America not really looking for religious freedom. They just wanted a place where they could put restrictions down. So that's actually a bit more, it's not the exact history, I'd say, but that's a little bit closer to what really happened.
But the way I learned it was that they were looking for religious, it was always made it sound like it was that, and I guess it was, that they were better than others, but it was always framed in like, oh, well, that's a good thing. Like,
right. No, there was a lot of religious freedom in England at the time. I mean, there was a little less religious freedom than in Amsterdam where they started, but in England you had Catholics and Protestants kind of living together, and not totally harmoniously, because you have a lot of Catholic prejudice in England, but yeah, you had a little bit more religious freedom
than the Puritans wanted and then you didn't have any religious freedom when they founded their little cities. But fortunately, you had a lot of space, so you had other places to go in America if you wanted. Right. So, anyway, the Pilgrims were interesting characters for sure, and there's a lot of
because like if I want to my faith has got to be pretty opposite to the norm if I'm gonna have to get in a wood fucking ship and travel across an ocean. Okay, things have to be. That's what so I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna change into immigration for a second, because I see a lot of religious people that are very anti-immigrant for many reasons, and I always would say to my dad, like, you don't even, and he was kind of confined to his scooter later on in life, and I go, you don't even like to get up and put forth the effort to get out of your scooter to get into a chair to eat dinner. You'd rather us move the chair out and you just drive up to the table. And these people are walking, immigrants might be walking thousands of miles from Central America through multiple countries, walking to try to get here. How bad do you think it had to be for those people to make that type of trip? So how bad do you think the pressure was for the Puritans to have to leave? And I get it. And once again, I'm not framing that as a good thing. I'm framing it just like immigrants, that it's a bad, the situation was so bad, and it's like, well, we're better than that situation. But in this case, I think it's like, no one wants to, I don't know. When I was down in Wichita, where Bobby is originally from, and I was working at Best Buy, they had a lot of Mennonites, which I don't know a lot about the Mennonite faith. I believe it's
Mennonites are kind of close to the Amish, right?
Yes, I believe very similar. There are some different, like I think they can drive automobile, so there are some differences in things. But it was always like I never saw that and was like, I want to do that. Like, you know what? No. I've enjoyed being a Methodist, but that looks good. I mean, I'm up for a barn raising this weekend. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So, but they're those groups are the ones that leave a less a freedom, or a life that has many less freedoms. You can't just do things. In fact, I heard that when the United States did a cell phone test within the last month or so of us recording this, and originally it was interesting because they kept saying, we're going to do this test. And I thought it was just to let people know so that you wouldn't cuss at your phone when you're like, what the fuck is this? And it made sense because our oldest Mo, who is in mental health field, she was saying, they were allowing people to know that so they could mute those phones, because a lot of people that are in, domestic violence or abuse situations may have a second phone in case of emergencies. And so they wanted them to be able to silence those. And I was like, well, that makes great sense. But I also heard that a lot of Amish or people of faith, and I don't want to say Amish because I'm not 100%, I think it was that part of the group, but I'm not 100% sure. But there were people of certain faiths that don't allow cell phone usage or phone usage. They got outed by that. They didn't know, because they're not listening to the radio and everything. So they didn't know. And so there they are raising a barn with Jedediah, and your phone goes off. I mean, I wonder what that was like. Fuck.
Ooh, yeah, definitely. You get.
I mean, I wonder what level, I wonder what level, if you found out someone you knew was cheating on your spouse, you'd be like, oh my gosh. Well, do you think it's that same level? Like, can you believe, and the only name I can think to fit that type of, woodworking people, and I know I'm stereotyping the Amish, but we do have an Amish store here in Kansas City that sells their rocking chairs, which are amazing.
They make sure those Amish.
Oh yeah, they do. I mean, they're really. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you're not using the phone and playing video games. You can turn out some really nice furniture.
The Japanese culture, I feel like, has also made great furniture, but that's maybe just a digression. Anyway.
Yeah. So, but when Amish Mennonites, because they also dress, both the women and the men dress. A lot of times, the men's facial hair I don't really understand. It's like the chin strap beard and things like that. But I've never looked at that and said, I would really kill in that hat. If I could just wear that hat that Jebediah has on. Once again, it's the only name I can think. There should be other, like Jethro seems like it may work. But Jebediah, like if I say Jebediah, no one is probably picturing, a Methodist. They're not going like.
I'm not picturing a guy with long flowing hair. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I've never.
Say, I think these Mennonites though they're not converting people. There's not a lot of people joining them, right? No. I mean, it's mostly you're in it and you're born into it, and I mean, I think that's what's happening. I think they're.
Well, and I want to look up, not on my phone or not on my computer, someone else's. I had heard that there is a religious group. I don't know which one, and I can't believe this is true. But I also know stupid people where they actually cut a hole in the sheet and have sex through the sheet. So it's only about the act, and they're not. What?
Yeah. The hole in the sheet. That's a. I don't want to misspeak on the show, but I'm pretty sure that's an Orthodox Judaism thing. Is the hole in the sheet. So it's not mainline Jewish culture.
Right.
It's nothing mainline. It's like a very obscure kind of niche Orthodox Judaism that does the hole in the sheet thing.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why or where that is biblically. I don't even think that's probably not biblical. It's probably from some of the commentaries on the Bible that a lot of the Orthodox Jewish people kind of
so now I have the question: which came first, the glory hole or that hole in the sheet? Because it sounds like exactly the same thing. And I wonder, some of those religious, some religious sects, sects, they don't allow their women to. So don't because I was amazed at how often if you could see any skin on their leg or something, they would be very hairy. It was like a blade had never, and that's so I wonder if the sheet wasn't like Bobby and I once joked. She said something about the girl was so ugly you had to put a bag on her head. I go, no, if the girl's that ugly, you put a bag on your own head. Because what does it help if you put it on their head? Then it's just an ugly chick with a bag on their head. If you put the bag on your head, then it can be anything you want on the other side of that bag. So
that's right.
So maybe that's what the sheet's like.
Yeah. I think it's more just the kind of, all religions, groups of people like to, they like to make people do things and wield power. That's why we're talking about religion and that's one thing. I'm just not a joiner. I've never been a joiner in anything. I never liked clubs, and I think religion is kind of like that for me.
So now I've come up with I have T-shirt slogans. I have a new slogan I'm going to put on a T-shirt because you said you're not a joiner. I'm going to put the T-shirt's just going to say no orgies for Timmy.
Well, it's ironic because I do love an orgy, and I love an orgy.
There you go.
And I do believe in, collective action, and I believe that we need to all join together. But I just don't want to be a part of it, I guess.
So that is a weird thing about religion.
I've always kind of been apart from even the orgies that I've been a part of. So, even when I've been involved in, group sex activities, I am usually, orchestrating or having things orchestrated onto me.
Right.
I'm just not a joiner. And that's kind of been a real story of my life. And I don't know.
Well, and I think that's one of the problems that I also have, that people that have unwavering belief can get very easily get the wool pulled over their eyes, for lack of a better term. Like my mom was doing, like, ordering this thing from a company. They were all religious stuff, and then she got fucked. And the reason my mom doesn't tell me about stuff like this is because when she's explaining it to me, I go, well, Mom, that's not how the world works. Because she's explaining to me a story that what she's explaining about her credit card and what happens and everything, that's not how credit cards work, Mom. I mean,
yeah.
I'm a fucking genius. The one person that hates that more than anything is my mom. She always wants to be like, what makes you think you're a genius? I don't know, my fucking IQ. That's what makes me think. I mean, so anyhow.
But she's coming out of that, right? She's getting a sense of belonging. Like, people need that. People need a sense of belonging. You can't.
Yeah, but sometimes it's just so, and they always want to. Not always. They often need to demonize someone.
Something else.
Yeah, so that, like, my mom, I've had Liv LaRue on the podcast multiple times. She is a madam and a courtesan based out of Reno, Nevada. And one night I was eating dinner with my mom. I usually do that once a week. And she goes, have you had the sex trafficker on again? I go, what are you talking about? She goes, the sex trafficker. I go, I have never had a sex trafficker. And she goes, you had that girl. I go, what girl sex trafficker have I had on my show? And she goes, the one that has sex for money. I go, okay, not a sex trafficker. She chooses to do that work and, like, can't even wrap her. Here's the thing about that really gets to me in the, like, going to church with my mom. Her church is much older than ours is. I was mentioning how we have a 3,000 seat sanctuary. I think they have maybe a 200 seat sanctuary, and they do have a surprising number of young people, but there are a lot of old people there. And this past summer in 2023, there was a movie out about sex trafficking, and this is why my mom had sex trafficking and all that, child trafficking. Yeah. And
The Sound of Freedom.
Yes, Sound of Freedom.
Last time I couldn't think of it. Now I thought of it.
So maybe that's why we needed to redo this show. Just so that we had Sounds of Freedom. But so they were talking about Sounds of Freedom, and they were talking about, some of these children, are 13, 14 years old, and, like, these women are gasping, audible gasp. And I do understand that. But I'm also like, you do understand that someone who Mary did not know showed up uninvited into her room. And remember, she's 13 or 14, according to most accounts. Showed up and said, I'm going to impregnate you. Whether there was physical activity or not, I would think the mere fact that you go from not being pregnant to being pregnant without you saying, yeah, I do want to be involved in this. I'm 100% committed to being involved in this. In fact, it's my idea. I would like to get a second for this idea. That just, when they gasp at that, I'm just like, come on now. I mean, the hypocrisy is what, and I do understand, and our church talks about it, that a lot of times people turn away from the church is because of the hypocrisy that they see.
Sure.
And I think that's one thing that was weird is, so we have this gigantic church, and one day I made the fucking, I asked, so we have a big sports department. Like, I used to always play basketball with the guys from church, like 3 times a week. I did that for 10 years until I had knee replacement. My wife and I have played co-ed softball with the church. I've played men's league. We've played kickball, dodgeball. So we've done a lot of things. And one day I saw the person that usually is in charge of the sports, and I see Pete. I go, hey, Pete. I go, church this size, why don't we have a golf league? He's like, that's an amazing idea. Congratulations. You have now been appointed head of our golf league. Hold on. So, which was fine. The only problem was they take a lot of fucking... once it started for the season, it was easy. But getting to the first tee box that first week, just there's a lot going on. But so we would go out there and I would play and I would hit a bad shot. I'd be like, God damn, motherfucker. And people would just be like, hold on. Once again, they would be like, no, this is more likely. Because they would be like, what did you just say? And I was like, I probably said, goddamn motherfucker. I'm like, didn't you see how bad that shot? And I was, because I wouldn't try to retract it. I would just, that's just the reason I'm okay with that is I don't think God really gives two shits about my language. Fucking A. If he is, I don't like micromanagers. So if he is that intimately involved in my life that I can't cuss at a golf ball, then, and here's one thing that used to beg Bobby, then, because I will say this to God, you can just fuck off then. Like, I'm going to do a side note here. So Bobby, for a long time, she would not always enjoy the way that I would talk to God. Because I would blame him. I'm the type that I will praise him when things go well. I mean, I'm not like, oh, I won this because of God, but I'll be like, I have the talents or I was able, whatever. It wasn't just me. It was a team effort, me and God. I mean, it was mostly me. God was there as well. But that being said, I will also blame him when I can't find my keys or I can't find this, that, or the other. And I'll be like, I'll just be muttering like, if you want to know what pisses me off, God, this is it. When I get to heaven, I'm going to hunt you down. I'm going to fucking punch you in the face. And Bobby, first of all, she would get appalled. We've been together 28 years. So the first times these happened, she got appalled. Like, I don't want to be near you. You're going to get struck by lightning. I'm going to be collateral damage. I don't want to go to hell. Actually, hold on.
I don't want to go to hell. Just because you're a sinner, I'm not a sinner, so you can I almost said a bad word, and I don't do that because I'm not a sinner. So you can just move away from me and use that language, and I'm going to be over here, and when I pass peacefully in my sleep, I will be in heaven, so you have fun in hell.
Actually, she probably wouldn't have said hell for a long time. So, but for the longest time, it was like that, and at one point, we had the discussion about when I talk to God. And I actually told Bobby, I go, please don't be concerned with how you hear me talk to God. I go, that's my relationship with him. I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that. So like if you're concerned, if that causes you stress, don't let it cause you stress, because it doesn't cause me stress, and it's my soul and my afterlife. So please just be okay with the I'm okay. I don't think it's negatively going to impact me, and that will suck if it does, but I just don't think it will. And I told her, I go, what you need to be concerned with is if you ever hear me not talking to God. I go, because for every time you hear me cussing out God, I'm sitting there telling him, thank you for this beautiful day. I quote and I don't know the Bible verse and it's not going to be correct, but this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad. One of the other things that I really can tell that when I feel the hand of God upon me, and it's not just sex stuff with Bobby, because that kind of is like the hand of God too, because I often say, oh God, oh God, oh God. But like when I go outside and I feel the sun on my skin, I love the feel, especially on a really like a cold day or a chilly day, where those days where if you're facing the sun, your body is so warm and feels so good, but you're back, so you have to keep rotating around to keep your whole body warm. And that's when I feel like when I walk out of air conditioning in the summertime and I feel the warmth and I feel the sun hit my skin, I almost always am saying in my head, thank you, God, for this, because I love that feeling. And I do feel like the sun is his way. I know that there was a sun god, Ra, but I do feel like that's a physical way that I feel something in my life, God in my life, is the warmth of the sun. I mean, something as basic as that. When I used to surf and be down in the water, I used to love that. Just the overwhelming awe of being in the ocean was always, it was amazing. I absolutely love doing that.
I buy that. I mean, getting back to, how you're speaking to God, I mean, we can get down into the semantics of it, and the commandment is just, don't take God's name in vain, right? What does that really mean in English? We can parse that in all kinds of different ways, but the way that I see that is just don't use it flippantly.
Yeah.
If you're in a serious situation, you're golfing. Like I don't think that's necessarily flippantly in the moment. You're pissed off.
So
you're pissed off. How do we define vain, I guess, is what
and I've never really thought about that. And that's why I enjoy talking to someone like you that can help me continue to think and still at 56, something that I've spent much time thinking about, helping me still think about certain things. But, one of the reasons so here's a couple of epiphanies that I had in my life. So I dated a girl from Denmark, and one of our very first, I think it was maybe actually our first date, first official date. She was a nanny. She was going to go work out, and then we were going to go out afterwards. And she goes, "Can I come over and shower and get ready at your place?" I go, "That's fine." So so she comes over. I don't remember if she'd been to my place before or not, but I let her back to the bedroom. I had a roommate, but I had the master, and so I had a shower in there and everything. And so I was just telling her where everything was, and she starts getting undressed, and boom, she's naked. And I was like, "You're not very shy, are you?" And I didn't ever have a problem with the body. I was just so used to everyone else having a problem with it. Americans,
right.
Americans having a problem. And she just said, she goes, "You Americans are so weird about the body." And like literally when she said that, I go, "Yeah, it's not me, it's fucking Americans." And so but when she said that, I was like, yeah, because she wasn't trying to be sexual. She was just getting ready to take a shower. I mean, to her, it wasn't like a big, and I would do that. Like if I knew other people didn't give a shit, then like when I used to go to the beach, you would take like a towel or something, you would put it up high above your waist. You could pull your board shorts off and then put your shorts or pants on underneath it. Well, if I knew other people didn't give a shit, I wouldn't care. I would just strip down and put it on. And so, when she said that, it really clicked. And I was going to tie that into something with church, and I don't remember what I was going to tie that into. That someone had
maybe the Mennonites, right? If you had been born a Mennonite, then it would be some other set of cultural.
So the other, I do remember what it was. So like when she said something she just said something, and it totally changed kind of my outlook. Well, and still to this day, a very good friend of ours, he's also our vet. And I wanted to say that because without naming him, I wanted to name him. But we used to play golf, and we went to the same Presbyterian church where my mom goes to, that I go to on Sunday. This is where he goes. This is where we met. This is how we know each other from 40 plus years ago. But we would go play golf, and he would hit a bad shot, and he would say, "God bless America." And to each their own. That's fine. But I was always like, do you think you're fooling God? Like, did you say God? And he's like, "Oh," and then you're like, "Bless America." And he's like, "Man, he is so patriotic." So just hearing that. So I was like, if I'm going to say the first word God, then I'm just going to let it go. I mean, because that's the bad word. So I don't need to try to put modifiers to make my angriness not so angry towards God. And I just remember that was I remember that that one time he hits it and he's like, "God bless America." And I was like, I am never going to if I say it, I'm going to say it. I mean, if that's what's coming out of my mouth, I'm saying it.
Yeah. That's a whole other can of worms, because then it goes into intention. And then are we saying that God is some sort of version of our legal system where he's concerned about our intentions.
Right.
Maybe he is, but why?
Yeah.
Why is he concerned about our intentions? He has other intentions of his own, and according to how a transcendent God would act, his will is not our will. So any intention that we have, it seems pretty insignificant to his. So
yeah,
very interesting.
And staying on the belief portion of this, it's interesting how if there was a news story, if you created a news story that there was a girl 14 who had seen an angel had come to her in the middle of the night and she was now pregnant and said there is not one Christian. I know a lot of Christians that I think are very strong. Like if I was like, name 10 people that are going to definitely get into heaven, I can name 10 really quickly. That being said, those 10 also would not believe a story. Like if someone came and gave the Mary story now.
Yeah.
And it's like, but aren't you expecting God to return? Yes. Oh, but you're expecting him to come out of the sky like supernaturally now instead of the way he
as a virgin birth again.
Right. They would disregard that.
I mean, that is kind of that's a reboot, right? I guess
yeah.
It's not really a sequel, it's a reboot where we got I mean, why would he do it again? But I mean, if he did it once, I guess,
Oh, hold on. Oh my gosh. So we're an hour and 6 minutes into this, and I totally forgot to lead with this. We're totally going off subject. So you're gonna have to be the one that wraps us back into our religion portion of this. Has anything happened with Manbaby screening in Kansas City?
Oh, that is kind of very neat. Well, I spoke. I didn't speak, but we've been emailing. So there's no specific plan yet, but I hope to have some news for you within the next couple of weeks.
That is so. I was so excited.
Yeah.
I got to tell you,
Thank you for putting us in touch.
Oh, you are so welcome. I tell you, I said this initially when I had you on and we were talking about your award-winning movie, Manbaby. I said that I appreciated the movie so much more after talking to you for the first time and hearing you describe it and things. And that's why I think it would be so amazing to do a screening where you could do a question and an answer if that's part of it. I mean, because I do think people would really, I've always said, if you've watched the trailer and you think you know what the movie is, you do not know what the movie is.
Right. And we'd love to get Sydney out there, who plays Dana in the movie Manbaby.
Yeah.
She's in Iowa right now. It'd be great to get her at the Q&A. So we're going to try to make that happen. She's got big news. I just saw this on Instagram. I don't know how relevant this is to the listeners or to you or anybody, but I'm just going to say it. She's in a short that shot this summer. Is premiering at Sundance this year in 2024. Wow. Big shout out to Sydney Jensen, and star of Manbaby and star of this new Sundance short. I think it's a short that's premiering in 2024 at Sundance.
That's awesome.
That's a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's great.
Well, and I'm sorry it took me, because one of the first things I had written down to ask you was about that, because I was so excited. Then we started talking and we jumped in it, and I haven't even looked at the notes, honestly. But I don't know what made me think about Manbaby, honestly.
Thanks for asking. We're working on it, and hopefully we'll do it. We'll see the Stone Genius in person, while the Stone Genius presents Manbaby in Overland Park. That would be, and I got to tell you, that puts a smile. Even if I'm just there as someone in the crowd, I think that it's going to be wonderful. And I was so glad that I had told you for a long time that I was going to get back out to a theater. And I didn't tell you that movie that we saw there, Holy Frit. Oh, hold on. I'm going to get us back into a religion real quick. Back into religion. It's about the stained glass window.
Yeah. So what happened was, here in Kansas City, my very first job, the summer of 1984. Actually, I can't tell. It may not have been my first job. I may have had one before. One of my very first jobs, and I had a lot of very first jobs. was the summer of 1984. One of my first weekends, because school didn't get out till like right at Memorial Day, and this was the 8th of June of 1984 was the day that Gremlins, movie that we just recently talked about it, and I just recently rewatched.
Our holiday episode.
That came out with Ghostbusters on the same day, and I worked at Ranch Mart Theater, which is now the Fine Arts Theater here in Kansas City. And so my wife and I had been trying to find a movie that I would want to go see there. That I would not only be nostalgic about seeing a movie there, but I would also be interested in the movie. And I'd actually looked last week or a week and a half ago, whenever it was, and I saw the movies, and one said "Holy Frit," and I was like, it could have said it could have said anything, and I wouldn't. Nothing about what I saw wanted me to look any further. But then I get our pastor's Friday email that just kind of talks about what to expect in church on the weekend, like what the sermon's going to be about, so you know whether you want to skip or not, stuff like that. If they're going to ask for additional monies for building funds, oh, sorry, I can't make it, world of COVID. Where was I going with that? I have gotten so high tonight. Hold on. So what was I just talking about leading into that? Let's see. Holy Frit. So I get I get the email from the pastor, and it said being held over 1 week at the Fine Arts Theater, Holy Frit. And I'm like, I just saw that Fine Arts Theater. I want to see a movie there. I start reading it. We have, or did when it was created, the largest stained glass window, I believe, in the world. It's like 4,000 square feet. And yeah, it's almost the size of a regulation basketball court. And so this movie is about of course, our church is featured in it and our pastor is featured in it, but it's really about the artist and the creation and doing this. When they actually said that they would do this stained glass window, they gave a bid, got the bid accepted, and had no idea how they were going to do this. The technology had not been developed yet. Wow. And so it was a great story, but I got to see it at the Fine Arts Theater. And so when I was there, the young woman that was taking tickets, and I love that they're old tickets and not like scanning your phone and that type of shit.
Sure.
I just asked, I go, this is independently owned, right? Because I was just assuming as a Fine Arts Theater that it wasn't a chain. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, is the owner ever here? And she goes, oh, he's in the box office right there. And I love that it still has its box office, the same one as 1984. Now, I quit not too long after I started. So I was always like cashier grunt, like the concession stand grunt. I never got to be in the little old-timey ticket booth, which was awesome. But the owner was in there, and he came out, and so we talked to him, and I just mentioned, hey, I know that you would love to do a screening here if we could find somewhere. And so I apologize that it took me an hour to ask. I wanted to text you this week and see how things were going, but I thought, this would be a great first question for the show, and then it took me an hour and 5 minutes to ask it. So I apologize, but I'm glad to hear that you and I think it was Brian are emailing back and forth, and it sounds like we may have some news sometime. That's so awesome.
Holy Frit.
Yeah.
The Holy Frit is about the stained glass at your church.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You saw it. Yeah. So hopefully we'll show Manbaby in the same place in Overland Park in 2024.
That would be so cool. I mean, I have, and none of them you would probably want to use, but I will tell you, I have, like, if there is a day that you're like, yes, we're going to do this, and this is the date, or this is the time frame we're going to do it in, I have a slew of stuff that I would be more than willing to share with you, ideas about the event. And I don't know how screenings are done at all. So you have to remember that. You may be like, you're an idiot because none of what you're saying makes sense or what can we do? like for whatever reason. So I totally understand that, but I have thought about all these different things, and especially this theater has an interesting entrance to it as well. I mean, there's so many things that I think could just make this so amazing, and so I got to tell you honestly, I feel like I'm more excited right now than you are.
It sounds like you are. I'm a little less excited just because it'll be 2024, so the movie will be about two years old by then, and was shot a long time ago too, and a lot of work goes into putting on screenings, and so I want to make sure that we can make it happen and it's financially makes sense.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I want to do it, and I hope we get to do it, and I'll just keep you posted. But in the year that Manbaby was out, so it was August 2022 through this whole year, so through all 2023, as I promoting it and trying to get screenings in different places. Yeah, there's just lots of hurdles and lots of ups and downs.
Right.
And we've had some great stuff, like you said, award-winning, won the Dark Comedy Film Festival 2023 best feature, which is really cool, really great. But a lot of rejection. There's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of had a New York City screening that wasn't part of a festival that kind of we were very close to having it, and then it fell apart. Mainly just because it was just too expensive to make it work, and we couldn't sell the tickets there,
Right.
So, I'm a big realist, and I'm moving on to new projects. I'm writing something new and going to be shooting something hopefully in 2024 that, a new movie. And,
but maybe showing, maybe a 2024 showing screening of Manbaby will once again garner interest leading into your new project, so that it'll refresh people that have seen it or heard about it before, or people that are new to it, because then they'll be, because those people that saw it in August 2022, they may be like, I've been waiting for something. What's next from Tim?
Yeah.
So this may be like what's next. It's like finding that TV show that you want to stream, and you binge watch the whole season, and then you find out that next week's the second season comes out, and you're so excited, or as opposed to binge watching something and knowing that you have to now wait a year before you get the next 8 episodes or whatever. Right. So
we live in this content, and I'm saying that a little bit of acid in my voice there, where you really are kind of forced or expected to constantly be releasing content, constantly releasing things. The people who are very successful at what I do, are able to do that. I take a long time to kind of think about things, and I am a content creator, by the fact that that's the word that people use now. But not to sound too pretentious, but I'm more of an artist, and I do kind of still believe in art. I still believe in kind of taking your time and making something. And I'd love to be able to make something that I could pump out regularly, so that I could have that, grow that fan following, because I think it would be there if I could constantly kind of give people what they want.
Right.
But right now I just don't have that in me. That's just not where my gut is telling me.
If people are not artists themselves or have that creativity, they don't understand how that is. Like my uncle is an artist, and he's done different types of art throughout his life, and he's about 80 now. And he got a license to do through the NCAA. He does like handcrafted paper sculptures of different logos, or like he did I think the TCU, whatever their symbol, the Horned Frogs, like he did the hands or something. And so, but it was always the process of it, and it was more about, you can't why don't you do that? My mom, because this is her brother, she could never understand why often he would not finish things like artwork. He'd be so excited about something and then get it almost completed, and then he'd move on to something else. And she would always be like, he just can't complete anything. And I go, I don't think you're looking at, I go, I think that as long as it's not complete, it's still a part of him. Once he completes it, then you move on from that. And I go, so I think that sometimes, you know, like Bobby will look at me, she doesn't understand. And sometimes it's just my creativity. Sometimes it's being focused by the cannabis that I am ingesting, the strain at that point. But, you know, where I have these just bouts of where I have to sit down and write. I just have to get that out of my system. And she can't fathom that. I remember once she tried to do a solo show, which I can do a solo show, an hour-long solo show without, I mean, that's not, I can talk for an hour by myself, and that's not a huge deal. And when she tried it, I think the whole episode was like 11 minutes, but 6 minutes in, she was actually saying, I don't know how you do this. I can't talk anymore. And, you know, so if people just don't get it, you can't just take your perspective and then be like, this is like Tim. Tim's going to feel this way. I don't know why Tim won't do this because this is what I would do. I hate that.
Right.
We watch TV shows, and I say we. It is we, but like, I feel like I'm throwing Bobby under the bus, but I'm not. Like on some of the Real Housewives and stuff, when they get into disagreements, it's always funny because they'll be like, well, I would have. Yeah, but it's not you. So it doesn't matter, because I've said that to people before. It doesn't matter what the fuck you would do because you are not them. It matters what they would do. They have different experiences. They may have different expectations for an outcome than what you have. So you can't use that preface by saying, well, I would have. I don't give a shit what you would have done, honestly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well,
yeah, you wouldn't be in the spot you're in if you weren't you. And
yeah.
Well,
I hope that 2024 gives us a Kansas City screening. That would be, once again, I would be totally selfish on that because I don't know. I don't geek out about very much. Bobby will tell you about that. I would be very excited about that. And only like 40% of that would be the fact that I would totally dress up like a Manbaby. And if you're like, Sal's going to be there, or I don't give two shits. I will dress like a fucking Manbaby whenever I want. You have given me that want, that desire, that if I want to put a diaper on and I want to put a binky in my mouth and I want to put a bib on and a hat, I'm going to do it. And no one's going to say anything to me. Literally, no one will say anything to me.
He's down in Portland, so I'm not sure, what his schedule would be like, but so anyway, we'll see if we can do some Kansas City action in 2024. That would be really fun.
You know what, maybe I could invite the pastor from our church for the screening. He would actually be fine with that. He would be open to that. I think I like that. I have said I was just going to say, I have said that I wanted to have Adam on the podcast before.
Right. About that last time, yes, yeah.
And I'm not afraid to do that. The only problem is he has everything to lose, and I don't. Like, he could be on, it could be a horrible show or whatever, and I don't have anything to lose. I would but he has everything I mean, there'd be literally, if I ask him, I would only ask him at this point to see if he said yes. Because if he says yes, I'd be like, I'm going to tell you I'm not going to allow you to be on my podcast, and you really need better people vetting the programs you're going to be on.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to...
He's very welcome to Manbaby in Kansas City. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
The more the merrier. If he can gather up folks, he can bring all 4,000 parishioners.
We have done that for certain movies before. I'm not sure Manbaby. Well, I'm gonna say if people walk out of church never to return because of our stance, our welcoming stance to the LGBT plus Q plus. Sorry, I know I messed that up. To that community, if they're because people have left. We're one of the Methodist church that are opening, and we're fine with that. There are a lot of Methodist churches leaving because they're not as open as our church seems to be. And I always want to be like, well, we are the biggest church in the denomination, so we don't really give a shit. I mean, everyone.
Right.
Once again, I know this doesn't sound very church-like, but everyone looks up to us. I mean, it's interesting when we have like leadership summits that bring many pastors from other churches, because you can see the way they look at Adam like he's a rock star. And he is. He's amazing. He's very down to earth. He's only a couple years older than I am, maybe 3 years older than I am. But it's just funny watching people like, it's probably the same exact look I give people that have amazing hair. That is the same look that they're giving. Jumping back into the religion portion of this, we were kind of talking about like my relationship with God. I don't care if others judge. I don't understand why you would want to, like someone else would want to judge like how someone else behaves. Like Bobby, I always go, well, you're going to get into heaven. I mean, because you're amazing and you're married to me. That's kind of your penance. It's kind of like a hell on earth type thing. So I know, but no one else do I think about. I mean, I'm not like, oh, like my dad passed away, and if there's a heaven and a hell, unless he was really dark that I didn't know, he's not in and up in hell. There's no way. He's a wonderful man. So if there's a heaven and hell, he ended up there, but I don't think of that. I'll think about that when I die. That's when heaven and hell will concern me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people think about heaven and hell. I think it's it's a simple way for people who are, what's the word? Not necessarily stupid, but
stupid's a good word.
People who want to think about the world in simpler terms, right? Black and white thinking,
yes.
Either or, good or evil. So people, I think, what they're trying to do is they're trying to talk about morality, right? Like what is it to do good or to do bad in the world? But I think, people like us, who maybe come at it from a little bit more nuance, right? Where we don't look at the world as heaven and hell, right? I mean, there's a lot of gray, there's a lot of nuance, and
I think it was.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, I think it was Penn from Penn and Teller, the tall one that talks. He was talking about religion at one point. I don't know why there was an audience and why he was discussing this, but he was talking about how, most people think you need religion. Like if you don't have religion, that you're going to go out and rape and murder anyone you want. And he goes, I've been able to do that. I have raped and murdered everyone I want to, and that number is 0. Like religion is not what keeps him from doing that. Like me being married to Bobby, my ring on my finger, the ring on her finger, the piece of paper that we have from the state of Kansas, none of that is what keeps me in line with Bobby. I am how I am with Bobby because I love her more than I love myself, which is saying a lot. Yeah. Anyone that asks does Rodney love himself a lot? Yes, he does. And so when they go, does he love Bobby more? And they'll be like, yes. That show. I mean, but I have so much trouble with the other people trying to judge what. If you don't want to cuss, don't cuss. I don't give a shit, honestly.
Yeah. But again, I think it's because those folks are, they're moving towards something. So we don't want to just say, oh, you're stupid because you're thinking this way. I would want to ask them questions about it. I would push them towards just a deeper understanding. Well, okay, you don't a sin, right? A bad, somebody does anything bad, they rape and murder somebody. Well, why did they rape and murder somebody? How did they what was going on at the time? Were they being taunted? Maybe there's a very good reason for this person to get raped and murdered. Now, I say that and I sound like a terrible person because I'm acknowledging that, somebody should get raped and murdered. But, who knows? Who am I? Again, like, who am I to judge?
Right.
What is actually happening in the situation? And then let's push deeper and say, okay, well, this person that committed this rape and murder, that they weren't all there. They were abused. They were they were abused by the person they raped and murdered potentially. And then so it's a question of morality. And then we have as humans, we've created this whole system of legalese for that kind of situation where we say, if it's self-defense, if it's this, if it's that. But then, people don't feel satisfied by that, and so there is kind of this, we want a divine retribution. We want God to then punish that person or not punish that person, or, reward us for our, work where no one sees our work. We just toil and are quote unquote good people, right? Toiling away 40 hours a week, not speaking to anyone and being a good person, but then having horrific fantasies. Having, is that a good person? Does that make one a good person? To have terrible intentions and not doing
who was the actor? God, from the he played the Winklevoss twins guy.
Oh, Armie Hammer.
Yes. Yeah, because he had, I think, some communicated some fantasies or something.
Cannibal fantasies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a big meat guy. I'm the only thing better than meat and potatoes is more meat and potatoes. But I feel like I now have to quantify. I'm talking about cow, ground up hamburger, that type, or a steak or something. I felt like at one point I had to point that out because I like the rabbits a lot, but I wouldn't want to eat a rabbit the same way. Right. So yeah, I just
have you ever done I don't know if we want to make this a cooking episode, but have you ever done a salt bake on a steak? Do you know about this? Do you know about a salt bake?
No.
Okay. I'm a pescatarian. I'm for the holiday, for the Christmas, I'm trying out a salt baked steak that I'm gonna prepare. And I'm a little nervous, but I'm gonna do it.
Because I can understand the reason for your nervousness, because the name of it isn't it's not like a seller. It's not like a catchy oh, I gotta have that. That sounds great.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, it's supposed to be real good. You cake the steak in a salt rub kind of thing, and then you bake it, and then you crack that, okay, and then you crack the salt, so it's like a crust. You crack it, and then you put it on the grill for just a couple minutes just to give it a little more, and then it's good to go, and it's rare and it's delicious.
So when I had mentioned that the name of it didn't sound appealing, I'll let you know that your description of it, even less so appealing. Yes. So
okay. Yeah.
So
how do you like your food? What do you usually do? What do you do? You put
I have gotten to the point where I am a steak snob, and I'm pretty much going to just do fillets from now on, and generally medium. So I don't want them too. I don't want it done too much, but I want it. My mom likes them bleeding, and that's how I was raised, and that was just disgusting. In fact, I remember now that we're talking about this, I remember covering my steaks with salt because they were so undercooked that they had no I had to do something. But so when Bobby and I recently celebrated our 26th anniversary, and we went out for a steak dinner, and I was on the fence about a strip steak or whatever, and I was like, fillets are so fucking expensive. But here's the thing. We don't go out 5 nights a week. We especially don't go out 5 nights a week to a nice steakhouse where you could run into the hundreds of dollars for. So here, and I told Bobby after we went to dinner, because I did not get the filet this time. And it would have been like $25 more, $30 more, whatever, $40 more to get the filet that I wanted, like however I wanted it.
Right.
When you're spending, I mean, to me, in retrospect, what's the difference between 160 and 200? And I know it's 40, so it's not a literal question. I'm just saying that if I'm going to spend 160 for a dinner, I mean, I'll spend 200 for a dinner. I mean, that's what I'm going to start looking for going forward.
Nice dinner, you don't do it every night. Yeah, I agree. Drop a couple hundred.
Yeah. And if we did it more often, then I wouldn't do that. But I was like, that was ridiculous because I didn't finish the steak that I got. It was fine. So what I wanted to do was filet and lobster tail, and then I went for like a strip steak and fried jumbo shrimp. The steak was good. It's not a filet, and jumbo fried shrimp is not as good as a lobster tail. And like I say, it would have been 30 or 40, whatever. It would have doubled the cost, but I need to not worry about that, because if I'm that worried about that much more money, we probably shouldn't be eating there anyway. I mean, that's how I need to take it, and we'll enjoy it. I mean, because Bobby doesn't enjoy it if I don't finish my whole meal. I mean, I guess she kind of does. I mean, I think she had steak sandwich the next day because I probably only ate half my steak. That being said, I mean, she would much rather me enjoy just be like, that was the best filet I've ever had. The previous time before that, I had filet, and it was just, once again, we were not paying that night. So it was much easier that night to buy a filet. But but going forward, even if it's our dime, if filet's on the menu, it will always be a filet for me.
Right on.
So,
right on. Yeah. You're in the Midwest. You get good. That should be a good quality steak. Good.
It is, and it's funny. So when Bobby and I met, she's originally from Wichita, and we met in Kansas City. And when we went on our honeymoon, we went to Florida. And when we got there, and that's my home state, we went to eat, and I'm ordering fish. I don't remember what type of fish or whatever, but I'm ordering fish. And Bobby's just looking at me. She's like, "Who are you?" And I go, "What do you mean?" And she goes, and we took a delayed honeymoon. So we'd been together for about almost 2 years, probably a year and 8 months, I guess. Actually, I know exactly, a year and 9 months, because we got married 2 days after Mo's first birthday. So we had been together a year and 9 months when we got married, and it was about another month before we went on our honeymoon. We went to Key West, and I'm just eating all this fish, and she goes, "You never eat fish." I go, "Because we live in Kansas, and I don't like, I only like sea fish. I don't like, like swordfish, shark, so sea that I like that. I'm not a trout, catfish. I don't even consider them both fish. That's how separate. I'm like, because one's a very fish smell and one's not. Yeah. So, and I'm the not.
Like lake and river fish are a little different. For sure.
But yeah, when my eating habits totally change. We'll be going to fish, and I love it because fresh. Hey, what's the fresh catch of the day? Because it literally is the fresh catch of the day, and you can say it's a fresh catch of the day, and it may have somehow been caught and put on ice and shipped here, or some shit like that, or voodoo. I don't know what. I just added voodoo since it's the religion show. But whatever that may be, it's not fresh. It's not like they were down at the dock going, "I want this fish, I want that fish. This is what's going to be on the menu today." And I very much enjoy that. Yeah, I do. Fuck yeah. It feels like I need to go on vacation, that Bobby and I need to go somewhere that we can get fish.
I got steak on the mind. All the steak talk is making me hungry. I'm very excited for this Christmas experiment.
And if you do make it to Kansas City, I do know. Oh fudge! If you come to Kansas City, we are. So Touche's, which I've talked about before on the program. Touche's is a bar. The way we found it is, one winter night a couple years ago, I Googled dance places near me. There's a Power and Light district in downtown Kansas City that's amazing, but it's a 40-minute drive. It's parking. It's walking in and out, blah, blah, yada, yada. I wanted not that. So we found this place, Touche's. It says plays like 70s and 80s music. I'm like, I'm a 70s and 80s kind of guy. That's fine with me. It's 5 minutes from our house. And many of the longtime listeners are very familiar with the story of Touche's. So we walk into Touche's. Here's how things happen in our family. I smoke my cannabis before we go somewhere, and Bobby drives. She is the drive to. I am the drive from. She is drive to. I am drive from. So I smoke cannabis and get high. She drives there. When we get there, she drinks when we get there. So that's how we trade off, because I'm not a drinker. And then I'll sober up and drive home. So in this case, because we didn't know the cost of drinks and stuff, she had taken a couple of shots in the car with us. So when we got there, we parked. I was smoking in the car. She did a couple of shots. We pay a cover charge. We go inside. We're standing in the front door, and neither one of us had been to a bar in years. I mean, we had a 24-year-old at this time, so a lot of fucking years. Probably, there had to be times that we were at a bar, but so infrequently I can't even think of them, or I couldn't name them. And so we're there, and I mean, being wherever I am on the spectrum, I had sensory fucking overload. I was just like, oh my God, what's going on? And Bobby goes, you brought me to a swingers club. And I go, what are you talking about? She goes, we're at a swingers club. I go, this is not a swingers club. She goes, read. And if she cursed, she would have said fucking, but she said, read the room. And I looked around, and every table had 3 chairs. And almost every table, it seemed, was like an older couple with like a young guy.
Wow.
Yeah. So then we had to be very careful about like where we sat. We wanted to make sure we sat like at a 2-top. There's no third empty seat where someone could be like, oh, can I just take a load off for a second? We don't know how this shit starts. I mean, you could say the wrong thing, and then all of a sudden, like, wieners and boobs are hanging out. I don't know how this shit works. I don't want to know. Boobs
hanging out? Is Touche?
What's that?
Were there wieners and boobs hanging out at Touche?
Oh, there were things hanging out at Touche's, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, they would be asked to put them back away, but...
It was a swingers club. It was definitely
It was. I'm not. I have no proof. Now, I also did not go looking for proof. I have no proof. Like, I didn't find a document that said that they were a swingers club. But if someone said I had a swingers encounter that originated at Touche's, I would not be surprised at all. Not at all.
So I got a good story that I can follow this up with when you're done. Just let me know.
Okay. So anyway, I was going to say, I'm going to introduce you to Touche's because once you're like us, we're not into that scene. We're not swingers. I don't want to be part of an orgy or a threesome or anything else because, well, quite frankly, even before Bobby, I just wouldn't know what to do. I barely know what to do with one person. I don't need to involve anyone else to make my failings more apparent. Or I just don't know that doesn't appeal to me at all. So once we're okay with, this is what it's at, we do need to be careful. Like one night we were leaving and we'd been like dancing with a group of women. Bobby is 6'1". There was a whole group of women that were 6 foot plus as well. And so, a flock of a flock of big birds, they flock together. I don't know what, there's probably a saying about big women, tall women hanging together. And that's what they were doing. But when we're getting ready to leave, this one woman, she goes, can I kiss your husband goodbye? No. And Bobby said yes. Well, I turned my head and she kissed me on the cheek. And I was like, I felt like she almost pimped me out. because I didn't have any say so in it. And I mean, and she would never put me in harm's way, but I was like, that's the things that we have to be like that kiss on the cheek next time could be like, can I, hey, before you guys leave, can I give Ro a handy? You know, I don't know how quickly things escalate there. I will also say that near the fireplace, there has at times, and this is just from me standing not so close and viewing, there has seemed to have been an individual, genders it doesn't matter. There was an individual sitting there, and near him were two very attractive, out of the age range that should be appropriate for their, like, you know, like early 20s. Like, this club is 45 plus for the most part. I mean, because we're listening to 70s and 80s music, so you have to. So that's what we're. So you at 45 probably would be on the young side of what it wouldn't be like. You wouldn't be like, oh, that guy's so young, but you would be on the young side for the most part. But sometimes there's these very, very overly attractive for this place, overly dressed for this place, underly young for this place, not underage, just under the median age for this place, that when watching, it seems like men need to engage this individual before they can approach these two women.
Wait. You have to explain it to me one more time.
So if you saw one of these women and wanted to go talk to them and ask them to go out to the dance floor, you would need to go to this other individual that was sitting in between you. You would need to go and have some sort of conversation. I don't know if anything was exchanged. I don't know of information. I don't know. But you did have to go have a conversation with an individual before you were allowed to go talk to those women.
I don't have any experience with that.
It's just a weird, and I don't know. I mean, it could be the guy's dad. It could be those two girls' parole law. I don't fucking know what's going on. And so I'm not going to read into it. I'm not going to say that there are anything illegal or anything else going on. I'm just saying that from my point of view, you just like, so when people hear us go to Touche's, they will, others will they'll be like, really? And it's like, as long as you know what you're doing, and I won't discount that. Like, if I hear things that went on there, it wouldn't surprise. I would be like, okay, whatever. But so I'm going to actually finish. I was going somewhere where this story was steak. But at Touche's, the guy that started this, he used to have a place called Brothers 3 with his two brothers, which makes sense. And so it was more of a 70s, like a real club, like nightclub, and you ate there and fine eating and stuff. And so they actually 3 nights a week do steak. And I will tell you, and people look at me so weird when I say this because they think I'm trying to get them to go to Touche's for like a threesome or something. But that filet that they serve there, and that's the only thing I've had there. We've gone there a couple times. With the baked potato and the salad is as good as any that I've had at any steakhouse in Kansas City. And Jess and Jim's, which was named one of the best steakhouses in the country on numerous lists, I can't compare filet to filet because I did not have the filet at Jess and Jim's, but the steak, I would. If I had, because the filet was less expensive than what the strip that I had at Jess and Jim's was. So apples to apples, I would choose to go back to Touche's. And it's funny because when we go there, we live on a country club. And a country club golf course. And this country club, up until a couple years ago, was one that had sit down and you had meal service and you had food and drink minimums every month. And that's really changed. Well, it's funny because when we went there, it seems like a lot of those people, because they probably go dance at the club, they're there and they all push their tables together. And it was funny. The first time we came in, they looked at us like, ooh, fresh meat. And we were very like, nope, it's just the two. I mean, I think we were probably overly loud. Like they were like, okay, you can drop it. You're not that interesting young couple that just walked in. So, but Touche's, I would say that's where I was originally going, that I would love to take you there because now we could take you for steak. That would be a great place for the after party as well. Manbaby after party.
So I was at karaoke with the co-producer of Manbaby, my good buddy, and my partner at the time. We went out to karaoke here in Seattle, and it was the three of us, and at karaoke was pretty sparsely attended. It was just a few people.
Now hold on. I sorry, I gotta stop you on karaoke. Do you like to sing karaoke?
Yeah, I love karaoke.
So do you have to be like, some people, they'll love it when they're drinking, but if they're not,
I don't drink. I don't drink, so
okay.
I do it.
I'm the type, I'll sing it anytime. I love singing karaoke, and I'm just gonna throw this out there. I've said it before. My go-tos are James Brown and the Monkees.
Ooh.
I love
I love the Monkees. Yeah, Monkees are great for karaoke.
Oh yeah. Daydream Believer is Last Train to Clarksville. Those are some of my, like, if I'm trying to like, what do I feel like, something that will kind of get me in the mood to actually sing. Those are always, I always say James Brown, because so I had lived with a guy. He was killed in a one-car accident. I ended up moving in with a couple of people that I knew through him. They were looking for a roommate. I wasn't going to be able to afford the place that I had with Curtis any longer. So I moved in with Kristen and Ryan. And Kristen was Bobby's best friend when I met Bobby. So that's how I ended up meeting my wife. But before that, I really knew Ryan through Curtis. They were good friends. They were in a band together. And so Ryan and I went to a place not too far from us that had karaoke and drinking. And Curtis had only died a few weeks beforehand, and we were getting shit-faced. And then I ended up running into a guy that used to work with my dad, him and I were about the same age. He was a pharmacist, and he had worked with my dad for a long time. And we ran into him there. He was buying me more. I mean, I was just fucking hammered. But I still don't care. I mean, I would do this sober. So I was singing James Brown, like Living in America. So anyway, I'm singing James Brown, and like often if it's a place I don't frequent and I'm singing karaoke, I may expand my repertoire probably further than what I should, or my library of music that I might sing, as opposed to somewhere that I go to all the time. And so I'm singing these James Brown songs saying, I'm never going to fucking see these people again. So fast forward 24 hours until my first official date with Bobby. So I meet her, I take her home. She doesn't talk to me for 2 weeks. And then on Valentine's Day, so the night before Valentine's, I go sing karaoke, James Brown. Valentine's Day, she calls me. I had another date. I dropped that date because I couldn't wait to see this girl. And so I go to Bobby. We go to a bar, a pub, and we're sitting there talking, and I'm just looking. I'm like, I am so lucky. I said 2 weeks ago I was going to marry this girl, and it took her 2 weeks to fucking figure out that I might be the one, or at least someone that she could go out on a real date with. 2 separate groups came up to the table and said, man, we saw you at Danny's last night singing karaoke. You were singing James Brown. You're amazing. And they walked off. And at first I was embarrassed, but then afterwards I was kind of like, that's actually, because once again, it's a story to tell. Instead of just saying, I went on a date with a guy last night. Yeah, I went on a date. And evidently this tall, white, skinny guy likes to sing James Brown songs. So I gave her an immediate story. So, sorry.
I love it.
So, sorry, you had a story.
So I'm at karaoke. Yeah, I'm at karaoke with the producer and my partner, and we're singing, we're having fun, and in this other group, it's pretty sparse. There's only like us and another group, kind of. It's pretty private almost. And they keep looking over at us, and they're looking at us, and they're kind of, so we're thinking like, what are they looking at us for? And they keep kind of looking at us and coming up. And then they a couple of I think it was like 6 in their party, right? So there's only 3 of us, but there's like maybe like 6 or 7 of them. And a couple of them come over and kind of are like sitting closer to us. It's a Chinese restaurant, and there's like, tables and booths and stuff. And then they come right next to me. Okay. And then, we're kind of joking, they want some action. They're looking to swing, I guess.
Right.
Maybe, as we're joking, in between songs and stuff. So this gentleman comes over to me. He's probably about my age. He says, "Do you guys know where the classy swingers are in Seattle?" And I said, I don't know. Do you mean? So what's interesting about the story too is that I am a member of the Center for Sex Positive Culture. I'm a sex positive person. As I mentioned, I participated in group sex, and I have no judgments towards that, and so my story should not be construed as I'm making fun of these folks. But I said I don't know what you mean by classy swingers. I don't know what those words mean. So I said, do you mean the center? Do you mean the Center for Sex Positive Culture? Because I'm, you can go there and you can, learn about swinging, and you can do these things. And no, he's like, no, that's not it. There's a place in Seattle where the classy swingers hang out. So I said, this is what I know. I know the center, and that's about it. And so I go, and then kind of going back to my partner and back to Joe, and we're talking about it, and we're kind of giggling about it. Like, I guess it's true. Maybe they do want to swing with us. We're kind of laughing about it. And this actually continued throughout the night. We were there, 3 hours, and he's like, oh, well, if you know anything about the classy swingers, tell me about where are the classy swingers in Seattle. And I said, I just don't know. And so today, looking for classy swingers is kind of a little inside joke between us, because
I was gonna say that would be a great.
I don't know, where are the classy swingers? I guess we were maybe we were the classy swingers. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. So it was like, do you remember in Ghostbusters when they say to Ray, when they ask if you're a god, the answer is always yes. So when they ask you if you're the classy swinger, the answer is always yes, Tim.
But the question wasn't, are you a classy swinger? The question is, where are the classy swingers? And I gave him, my best answer. I was like, I don't know about a swinging group. I know about the sex positive group.
And I would, that's a situation I would have totally misread. And as a joke, I would have been like sitting right in front of you, and they would have said, "That's what I was hoping for." And then I would have been like, it'd actually been like, hold on just a second. I was trying to make a funny. I'm not trying to make a funny at your expense. Trust me, I am doing everyone a favor by not being involved in group sex. I would like to think that one-on-one with Bobby for the last 28 years, I have been, because this just made me think of something else. I would like to say that I've been at least adequate. So we started watching a TV show this week called Obliterated on Netflix. And
I know that one.
So it's a group of counter-terrorist people who thwart a nuclear bomb going off in Las Vegas. And then, so they go out and party, and they party hard. I mean, there's hookers blow, there's a camel, I'm not kidding. So it's some pretty hard partying. And then they get a call that that it wasn't the right bomb, that it's still out there. And so everyone's fucked up. Which continues. So Obliterate is what they're like through this. So it comes in many ways, shape, or fashion in there. But during this show, so one thing I've always said is that as someone who is 6'5", if I'm talking about my penis size, it is appropriate for someone who is 6'5".
Right.
No one's ever said, God, that's huge. Well, maybe some short girls way back in the day, but that was not. Yeah. I mean, but like I say, it's very appropriate. I don't think for someone else. I used to play basketball. I would take showers with guys that were my size. You would see So I never felt big. I never felt small. I just have always said it was appropriate. So on the show Obliterated, there have been 2 penises, actually 3 penises shown. Ooh, here's a good tie-in. Oh. The very first penis you see Thomas Howell from Soul Man.
Oh, interesting.
He's in the he's in this show. It's a series. It's like an 8 episode, 6 episode, something like that series. We have 1 episode left, but he's in it. So you get, and that's generally if you see a penis in a normal mainline something or rather TV show. I guess it's not really mainline if you're seeing like cocks, but if you see it, it's generally not. It's generally like 58-year-old or however old C. Thomas Howell is. That's, it's like, oh, well, that's what they're representing as a penis. Well, on one of the episodes, there is a male stripper, and I don't know how tall he was. He could have been 8 feet tall for all I know. I do not know how tall he was, but it was funny because we were watching the show with our youngest Trinity, and it was non-binary. And it was funny. It was just interesting because Bobby wasn't in the room at the time. So she was in the room at the episode when she got to see C. Thomas Howell's 58-year-old penis. She didn't get to see the young stripper who, by the size of his penis, I'm estimating he was somewhere around 8 feet tall. Yeah, so I actually rewound it, and Trinity's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "I want Mom to see this penis." She's like, "Or do you want to see it?" I go, generally it's like that first penis, not like this. And so she came out, and it was funny because when I hit play, I didn't watch the TV, I watched Bobby's face.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. So then later, and that was a white gentleman. So later there was a black gentleman who my best guesstimation was 18 feet tall.
Okay. Wow. Wait, so there's 3 penises in this show?
At least 3 at this point.
Oh,
and the weird thing is the guy that has had the most sex in the show, you haven't seen his penis. But the other, I don't think so. Huh. But the other, so anyway, you have the 8 foot tall white guy, the 18 foot tall black guy. So so it has actually made me rethink that I may not have as adequate as like, and those could have just been like 2 very generous specimens that they were able to get, which I'm sure, I mean, I don't know how that casting call goes for that, but
comparison is the end of happiness though, Ro,
Yeah.
I feel like I've had this situation, like when I was in high school, I always felt like I was pretty above average. I always felt I was like, oh, I'm big, down there in high school. And then when I went to college, I thought, oh gosh, I'm below average, and I think it's silly. It's silly to compare. Don't waste your time doing that. I think there should be more penises in television shows though, I feel like
hold on.
Not.
This will be a great tie us back into religion because we're talking about how they really don't like the naked body, the just and things like that. And that's one thing that you'll also see. Like it still is a very homophobic society. Like even people that are not homophobic in the way that they may interact with individuals, they'll act weird if a penis shows up on television or movies.
They will. Yeah, the penis gets you an NC-17 almost immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas a bush, you get a little bush and it's still an R.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's always weird, but and I hadn't thought about it, even with the rating system like that. But and maybe that's why you don't see it in movies, because this was this is a show on Netflix, so they can do whatever the fuck they want and not have to.
With streaming, things are a little bit more, loosey goosey now.
Yeah.
So
and I'm totally fine with that. I mean, because I'm not, once again, this circles back to the girl from Denmark, is that once I heard that, I don't need, because I never had a problem with the body. And as soon as she said, "You Americans," I was like, I am not one of them. I mean, I know I'm an American, but I'm not like everyone else. I'm the 1% that my IQ separates me from the rest of that herd. And I don't think like them. I don't. And that's my whole, like, if people are like I talk about nude beach and it's like, no one wants to see your penis. It's like, you don't have to look at it then. Trust me, being at a beach naked has nothing to do with you. Literally, like, I will be naked whether you're there or not. I mean, that's what I would like to say. I mean, so I just have I just.
I mean, we're all naked under our clothes,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's funny when people freak out when they find out I go commando. And this has just happened within the last year and a half. That I used to always wear boxer shorts. Didn't always find that they were comfortable. They had I didn't really like it, but I was always like, ugh, I just couldn't imagine not going with underwear. Now, this is what happens to me. Sometimes I start thinking about something, especially if it's cannabis-induced thoughts, and then I'm like, why do I do something?
Yeah.
Like, why do I why am I so against going commando? So I decided one day I was I'm not going, because I was like, oh, it's gonna feel different. I'm gonna feel the seam of my jeans and my ass crack. I mean, I don't know what. And so it was just so. And then I was like, oh my God, why haven't I always done this? And so now I'm frustrated because a lot of my pants, because I stay fit, and so I like form-fitting clothes. It's so cold here, I can't get any of my long johns underneath my new form-fitting pants. So, but it's weird that occasionally because I will talk about anything to anyone, anywhere. In fact, we can circle this back into our vet, Dr. Lyle, who we went to the same church and everything. He was on one of my very early podcasts. And at the end, once we had finished recording, he had said something. He goes, wow, I didn't know, you thought of us being so close. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, all the stuff you shared with me. And I was like, I mean, to me, I just talk. I don't care what the audience rarely dictates what I say. I mean, sure. I can be cognizant of the words coming out of my mouth. I don't want to cause someone undue stress or harm. But at the same time, I can talk about my prostate massager in front of anyone. It doesn't bother me. It just would be like, oh, like if my mom goes, I heard you use a prostate massager. Why is that? I could have that because most people are like, I would never have that conversation with my mom. Well, it wouldn't be my first choice. But if I'm going to do something, then I don't mind talking about it. And I just don't see why people freak out about, especially religious people, about the human body. That just
well, it's all related. It makes me think of, and this is kind of a non sequitur, but it does relate. Trust me. They in the I think it's called Gogol Tepe. It's sort of
Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, the first kind of temple, I guess, in prehistory or
like it predated by thousands, if not a 10,000 year period. It predated anything that they thought man was capable of. Yeah. And I believe it's in the Turkish region, somewhere in that part, but I believe it's called Göbekli Tepe.
I think that's the right pronunciation. And it's a bunch of statues and they're grabbing their cocks. They have erections. And so if it's any kind of temple, somehow their religion had to do with people grabbing their cocks. And okay, maybe it's not religion. Maybe it's just art. And maybe it's practical. Who knows what it exactly is? It doesn't matter. They're making these statues of these characters grabbing their cocks,
right?
And so, to me, that shows that we've been doing this for a long time. You asked, what came first, the hole in the sheet or the glory hole, and I said it's got to be the glory hole. I think these things are they're pretty
linked up, you know, in our brains.
I don't think I could do a glory hole. I've never had the opportunity to, but now I hope that. Well, I don't think I've been to the restrooms at Touche's, honestly. But I don't know. I don't know what. I don't think at any time in my life I'm just not. And it's weird because before I met Bobby, I had a lot of sexual partners, like a lot. But I was also very cognizant about my health. I grew up in the 80s. I understood AIDS. So I was very open about that part, but I wasn't like experimental is not the right word. Maybe that is. I mean, I just wasn't. To me, it was always like a physical act. Like before I met Bobby, like I love the intimacy that I have with Bobby. I mean, that's a connection I'd never had before I met. Literally before, it was just a physical activity. It was a lot less time than playing a game of basketball. Like it's like, we can knock this out in like 10 minutes in a closet real quick, or I'm going to have to go home and get my shoes and shorts and go to the gym and change and get out on the court. So those are my options. I mean, I don't know why those seem to be my only two options for a long time, but those seem to be my only two options for a long time. And Bobby, sometimes we've talked about in the past where I understand that she does not like my history before her, but I remind her of two things. Or three things. First of all, everything that I did before her led me to her. Right. And I always say that no matter what that number is before I met her, once I met her, that number has not changed since then. Because I always say, would you rather have me been with 600 people before I met you, you be 601, but now 28 years later, my number is still 601, or would you rather you have been number 2 and now my number's 7? You know, it's like, so it led me to it. And then I have to point out a couple other things. I go, first of all, I'm 7 years older than you, almost 7 years older than you. So I just had more time to go out and do things. And the reason I point that out is you went home with me. She went home with me about 2 hours after she met me. Mm-hmm. So so I always joke that the only difference between me and her, like our partners beforehand, was that I had a 7-year head start. That was the only difference. And I go, honestly, if I had it to do over again, I would have much rather have met you. I was her second. I would have much rather had met her being my second than where it was. But you know what? I don't give a shit what happened before I met her, because I met her and literally nothing else mattered before that. Which it's weird because she has a hard time buying that, but it's like, so when I had knee replacement and I could no longer play basketball, and I played 3 hours of basketball the night before my knee replacement surgery. I just never thought about basketball. I didn't watch it anymore. I didn't care. I didn't follow teams. I didn't follow players. I still haven't watched an NBA game since I had that surgery in 2010. Once I stopped playing golf, once I had the inability to play golf due to a hand surgery, I used to wake up every Sunday morning like at 4 a.m. and watch golf from Europe. I used to always watch, and I didn't. And the same thing as when I met her is like, there was nothing. Once I met her, it was just like, boop, and it was just like everything else. I could come to a full-on stop and change directions in a heartbeat. And that's what I did. But I was we joke kind of that Mr. Beer was involved. So I guess our first night, it really was a threesome. It was me, Bobby, and Mr. Beer, which is a very tall beer. I'm not good at judging fluid ounces, but I think it was around 900 fluid ounces per beer.
Wow.
I don't think it was that big, but it was big. It was not a normal, like, did you ever see So I Married an Axe Murderer?
Yes. Yeah.
So when he goes, sorry, I ordered the large cappuccino and that it was in that big, that's kind of what it was like. Anyway, I lucked out. It's just weird that 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 she went home, that everything worked out. Because I remember another time when I knew that Bobby was the one, and this sounds weird because I grew up in the church and we're talking religion. We went to my church, our Presbyterian church, before they asked her no longer to come because she was pregnant and unwed to me. They didn't ask me not to come; they asked her not to come, which I thought was interesting. So, yeah,
well, you show you don't have a belly. So.
Yeah, well, and that's so there is a reason that Bobby does not attend that church when I go to church with my mom. She's still, and I get it. And that's why a lot of people turn away from churches. I know I'm taking a right turn or left turn at this point, but that's why a lot of people turn away because of the hypocrisy that they see.
Yeah. Well, and it's all semantics, and this kind of goes back to what you're talking about, number of partners and all this kind of stuff. Look, when I believe when you have sex with someone, whether it's, even if it is just a physical act, you share something with that person, and it's something unique and it's special. And that's why religions focus on that. And at the same time, it is just a physical act, and you have to, maybe some people aren't wise enough or don't think about it enough to separate and to kind of move past this kind of thing. And maybe that's why religions have, fixated on it. I think also religions fixate on sex stuff because sex is a way to have that to get to a spiritual place. And I think when you do something sexually with someone, even if it's some stranger from the bar, you do share something with them because you're sharing this kind of human experience that we all have, and it's important, but it's not like it's important, and it's not the end of the world or the beginning of the world either. Well, it can be the beginning of someone's world if you get somebody pregnant, but it's not. It's really not as big a deal as I think religions make it. And even people who are not religious, but who are kind of, I don't know, I guess you call them traditionalists or conventional thinkers who are kind of like, be careful of a slutty girl or a slutty guy. Be careful,
one of the things they used to always say was, when you have sex with someone, you're not just having sex with them, you're having sex with everyone they had sex with as well. And I always call bullshit, because that's not true. That's only true is if someone in that line had like an STD or something. Then, like, if their partners 6 partners ago had an STD and they gave it to someone, and it finally got to them and then gave it to you, then yes, I could see where you tie that in. But if you're practicing safe sex and you're not. You're not sleeping with, you're only sleeping with that person or having sex with that person you're having sex with. Because that's one thing that always no, I'm not having sex with all those people. I am, and that's, but once again, they try to find it, they try to get it icky. And sex shouldn't be icky. I mean, and I understand, like, sometimes, like, I think it's weird still, like, how anti-butt stuff even hetero guys are.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I hadn't, my conversation was, I enjoy a good poo as much as the next person, so I enjoy the out of it. I couldn't imagine. I mean, it just nothing had ever. And so Bobby and I, we've been together for 28 years. And of course it was my idea. She wasn't going to be like, oh, you should get a prostate massager. So I was like, I want to figure out, I want to try it. I mean, they make them. I want to try it. So I got it, and I don't mind it. I mean, it's fine. It's kind of like, it's kind of like Dijon mustard. It's not going to replace, like, it's not going to be my everyday mustard. But, if I introduce that if I do that every once in a while, that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't say the most fun is we got one that you can control with an app. So when Bobby, we've been having trouble with it lately, but Bobby, if she can control it with an app, because there'll be times where I'll do like a show and I'll wear it and I don't know when she's going to turn it on or like to what speed. So that's kind of fun. I mean, I do enjoy that. You know, and it's interesting because I know there's someone that, for the most part, I would say they're fairly open-minded about stuff. But man, if I start talking about a prostate massager, they just, you would think that they had just got tased or something. That it just, for whatever reason, they're like, I can't believe you stick something in your butt. And I'm like, I mean,
no. It's a human thing that people do. And, you know, that's, I was just going to say to your point about like safe sex. I was going to say, like, I kind of think there's no safe sex. There's safer sex, right? It's like it's like you do things to keep it safer and use your brain. Don't just use your little brain. Use both brains, and you can make it fun, and it doesn't have to be scary. And I also like what you said about it. You know, it doesn't have to be icky, because you know, sex is it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
It's fun. Oh my God. I mean, I am so lucky that Bobby still has as much sex with me as she does. I know how lucky I am for that, but I mean, I enjoy it. And the thing is, as we get older, I don't know if I'm going to say I'm in.
People get you know, oh, and I'm old, you know, or oh, I don't want to see old people, or you know, but this is all bullshit too.
Yeah. Well, you know? I bought a massage table, which on Amazon, one of those real nice heavy duty massage tables, because you know it is comfortable. I like laying I sleep on my stomach, and I've been having some back issues, and I actually was like, I'm gonna put that up every once in a while, actually sleep on it, and But the very first thing we did was have sex on it. And that was my review. I actually posted to Amazon that this is a great table. It obviously was not used for massage the first time. It was used, and I couldn't put sex in there, so I like referenced that in there. But then like as we've gotten older also, you know, some of the like most people, if you said, oh, we have a sex swing, their first reaction on their face is going to be negative. I almost guarantee it, which is weird because I don't know why sex and swing. All you've said are two words. But here's one thing that I have found that Bobby and I have discussed as we get older. Oh, fuck. We have to do a show. So I have multiple shows where I've been injured during sex. I have had surgery because of sex. I dislocated a thumb and had to have surgery. I tore a tendon in there. I tore a tendon in my wrist. So multiple times I have been injured during sex. It was really weird. Bobby and I last night, she was on top. And there's a weird sound that was given at some point before we completed. And then it was funny because I recognized the dismount. And the dismount was of an injured creature. So I knew that something had happened. And she's like, I think I just broke my thumb or dislocated my thumb.
No.
Yeah. And so she gets up, she goes off to the restroom, she comes back, she goes, I changed my mind. She goes, my thumb feels amazing. I go, what? She goes, I don't know, because she had been having some problems. She's actually had a cortisone shot put in it. And so she actually, during sex, she actually got better. I'm having surgery to correct problems. So that's another benefit to sex. But the funny thing is, as I've been getting older, I think sex swings were actually invented by older people to take
I agree.
Because neither one of us would get injured if we had a sex swing. And it would be so much easier for us. And I'm not positive, but I think if Bobby's in the sex swing, or me, I don't know which one, you know, we're going to try it every way, honestly. But I think we could even somehow incorporate maybe like a a lazy boy or maybe a stool so that the other person could be sitting as well. But I still think, and at first I kind of was joking about it, but now I do think I do want to buy that. The only problem is the only anchor that I have in my house to hang it is in our living room where I do our TRX workouts. Which, I mean, I already tell people when they ask what it is in the ceiling, I always say it's for our sex swing. And then we kind of joke about it. I guess I could just continue to do that and not joke about it. They just always make sure I lock the door. Cause
yeah.
I
mean, you could put it on and put it off, right? You don't have to like leave it hanging permanently, I guess.
But why wouldn't you? I mean, I don't know. Like, and I don't know. I would just assume if I had
of us, you know, over 40, you know, like I feel like they're definitely good for that, you know. So I fully support this new purchase.
I'm telling you that one of my first sponsors that I'm going to have is going to be with a company, and I don't even want to call them sex toys because they're not. I mean, they're fine. They can, just like a condiment or, you know, like I'd reference Dijon. It's just something that you can. It doesn't have to be all the time, like a vibrator or whatever. I mean, there are things that you can introduce. You use them once a month. You can use them once, never again. Whatever. It's just interesting how negatively, like if you mention any of that, most people, like, I don't understand like why that's a hard, like, I don't understand why sex is a hard topic. Because first of all, I know not everyone's having sex. Hold on.
Sure.
Because I got a sound for that. And so I do feel bad when I thank Bobby all the time about that too. Because I do want her to know that I am appreciative of us being together for 28 years and us still throwing down 3, 4, 5 times a week. So that is very appreciative on my part. Because it is difficult as we get, and that's another thing that I never took into consideration. Like sometimes, like I know how my body has changed as I got older, but evidently I am under the assumption that Bobby, after being with me for 28 years, her hips and knee placement behind her ears is still there. Like I know, like seriously, like sometimes I'm like, oh fuck. Like if she tried to do this to me, like if she got on top of me and took my legs and tried to put my knees up behind my ears, I would be having hip surgery pretty quickly. I mean, I would finish what we were doing because I'm a team player and I'm all about finishing. But I do think that hip surgery would probably be a quick follow-up to that.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? Getting old sucks. It really does. I mean, like I said, it was funny because I said that. I go, that my exact words to Bobby is, I had heard like a sound. And once again, you know, sometimes maybe we didn't move at the same time, whatever. So I wasn't exactly, and I was in my own world too. I was finishing making my own sounds. But I was aware of her sound, but it was funny because I did say to her, I did verbalize, I recognize that dismount, meaning that I thought she had been hurt because I was like, because you're like, okay, you're only really using one arm to push off and everything. It was just very funny but it kind of does piss me off that she got healthier after being injured during sex. And I'm like out of commission for a week.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Well,
man,
like
I would like to, I wish that there was a way to find out how much information from our first show, because we talked about this before we hit record, that our 4-hour show that we did last week that is lost somewhere, or just never. I don't think lost means that it would have been something tangible to begin with, and I don't think it ever was, unfortunately. Hold on, I do have that sound again. So I don't know how much we covered from them, because we did discuss that was a really good show that we did, and I think this was very, very good too. But I know that we covered a lot of different things. I know that we covered some of the things that we covered last week.
New stuff.
Yeah.
We went more into penis and swinging. So
yeah.
Hey, it works.
Yeah. And once again, I am super excited about the possibility of a screening here in Kansas City. Honestly, it's kind of for selfish reasons, because then you and I can physically hang out together, and you're coming to see me. I don't have to travel to Seattle. Nothing against Seattle.
Exactly.
I just remember the one time I was in Seattle, and I was actually going to Victoria, British Columbia, when on the ferry, the captain of the ferry said, "Hey, everyone go outside on the deck right now." And everyone's like, "Oh, shit." First of all, I think half the people thought we were sinking. Half the people thought it was like a whale or something. But then he goes, "The sun's out."
No.
Because it was in February, and it had been like, I guess, weeks since like people had really seen the sun for any amount of time. And I just like, as a guy from Florida who loves the sun, I very much enjoyed my time in Seattle the week I spent there, and in that area. I did very much enjoy the area, but I remember earlier when I was talking religion, and part of me feeling God touching me is the sun on my skin. That is something that I think I physically would go through withdrawal. Like, I don't think, like, I think someone could offer me an insane amount of money to go to Seattle and live there, and I would have a unless I made so much money that I could leave every weekend and go somewhere warm and sunny and enjoy that. Right. I think that would be very difficult for me. So once again, selfish. If we have the screening here, I would love to be, I would love to be part of that screening that you have in Kansas City. But again, selfish, because then we could hang out. Take it at Touche's.
I'd love to have you. I'd love it if maybe you could do the Q&A, maybe you can get up with this and kind of ask the questions, and we can do it. But
I don't know. I'm so shy. I don't know if I could take that responsibility, Tim.
Well, you'd be in the baby outfit too, so that would be a very...
That would be a great voice. I'd be like, "Hey, what's up, motherfuckers? My name's Manbaby. And anybody got a cigar? I feel like smoking, motherfuckers."
I don't remember Manbaby having quite so volatile of tongue in the movie, so I do think I'm going to have to watch it again. And actually, I'm going to watch tonight when we're recording this at night. I was on Tubi today, because here's another interesting thing, that meeting you, going to Manbaby, I originally saw it on Tubi, and then Shark Side of the Moon with your friend Maxie Whitrack. So that's how I kind of got introduced to Tubi. I just found a show that I don't know anything about. I've never heard of it. It's a movie from like 2003 called Rolling Kansas, and it's something about weed in Kansas. So I don't really know what it, but yeah. Okay. So I'm going to be going to Tubi tonight, so maybe I'll get distracted. Can people still go watch Manbaby free on Tubi?
They sure can. Okay. Yeah, Manbaby's still available on Tubi and on Amazon too. Just check out manbabymovie.com if you're curious about what we're talking about.
Yeah. So, and I will post it again with our social media. Tim, I got to tell you, I'm almost positive that this will be the last time that we do a podcast in the year 2023. So I want to take this time to say thank you for being a friend of the show, for being on so often, for returning to the show when we just did a huge long show last week. I understand the time commitment that is, so I very much appreciate you being able to return so quickly and redo most of that show again. So thank you very much for such a wonderful 2023.
My pleasure. Happy 2023. Happy New Year to you, and onward to 2024. Yeah. Screenings, perhaps, and maybe some more pods.
Yeah, and definitely because and that's the other thing, that as you and I, just as an adult, there aren't many people that I haven't made many friends as an adult, and I'm fine with that. I mean, it's not what I don't need it. I don't look for it, but it is something I very much enjoy talking to you, and that's why, even though we don't have any of our conversation from last week, it still gave me the chance to get to know you and to talk to you and learn more about you. And I very much appreciate that, because you are someone that we can go off on these tangents no matter what they are, and we talk about it, and we can talk about it in a very intellectual way, and I very much appreciate that as well. So And definitely in 2024, if there is any positive news of any sort regarding Manbaby in a screening here in the Midwest in Kansas City, then we will have you hop back on. Even if we have to do a special edition episode and throw it out there, we will do that.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. It really is my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So happy holidays to you, and so it's called a salt lick steak. What is it called? A what steak?
I'm gonna try a salt baked steak. Salt crusted baked steak, I guess, or salt baked steak.
Okay. I'm afraid I may have to. One of the people I don't like at work tomorrow, I may use their phone to look that up because I'm not sure I want to type those words into my own Google browser. So I'll use someone else's tomorrow. So I hope that goes well for you. I hope that makes. Well, you know what? I was going to say, I hope it makes it memorable. And I was thinking like positively memorable. But even if you do it and it makes your holidays of 2023 negatively memorable, at least there's still memories, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Give me my second steak of the year. The last time I had a steak was like January of this year. So it's been like a whole year. So I'm very informed.
I mean, I guess we don't have them that.
I just don't have it very often.
Yeah, we don't.
I've had a lot of fish. I've had a lot of fish because I'm in Seattle. But anyway.
You know, that's the weird thing that now that you mention it is I'm trying to remember. I've probably only had steak 3 or 4 times this year. Bobby, I mean, and I'm thinking because Bobby's made it at home, but I don't think of it. And it's not, I'm not trying to discount the steak that she makes, but it's, I'm trying to think like going out and having it prepared. But honestly, I think it was Jess and Jim's. Before that, we went to this amazing steak place called Jay Gilbert's in Overland Park, which the doctor that Bobby works for, her and her husband took Bobby and I to dinner there. That was an amazing filet. I mean, it was so good. So I don't like fat on my steak. I trim all the fat off. Literally the first bite I took of this filet, I thought it was fat. I thought because it was so melty and just like, I was like, oh my gosh. It was so good. I was so glad we were not paying for that filet because I was not like looking at the small ounce size. I was like, what is the biggest fucking filet I can get and put in my body so that I don't embarrass us by leaving extra steak. So it was amazing. And then before that, it was Touche's, which once again was an amazing steak. So, but it's weird because, you know, I just had it within the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And so it seems like I guess to my memory, it feels like I've had it a lot more. Maybe because I have it so infrequently. And then when I have it, I don't know. It's weird. Because yes, now I'm like you're saying I've only had it twice this year. And I'm like, I'm appalled by that. But if I think about it, I've probably only had it 3 times. So, yeah. Okay.
Well, thanks for the more wishes. I'm looking forward to it, and looking forward to 2024. Happy New Year to you.
And it looks like we may have a new project at some point to talk about too in 2024.
That's right. Yeah, in 2024, new projects coming. I'll be sure to keep you in the loop.
Sounds awesome. Okay, for everyone else, you guys have been listening to the Stone Genius podcast. We had our guest and friend of the show, Tim Lightell. He is the award-winning producer, writer, director of the movie Manbaby. You can find Manbaby on Tubi TV. That is free. You don't even have to sign up unless you want to stop your and resume playback. Also on Amazon. And you can go to manbabymovie.com. Is that correct, Tim?
Yep, that's the one.
Manbabymovie.com to find out more information. Tim, thank you again. I can't wait to talk to you again in the near future. And I do know, because I do hear from a lot of the listeners, they very much enjoy having you on the podcast as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Good to hear. Good feedback. All right, Ro, have a great rest of your week and night, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you so much, Tim. For everyone else, thank you for listening to Stone Genius Podcast. My name is Ro. Talk to y'all later.
All this food